Happy spring day. So our first order of business is new councillor business. Anyone have anything for business today? Councillor Malkinson.
Your Worship, perhaps it could be added to mayor's business, or maybe even at this time. At some time during this meeting, I'd love for an update on the work that's being undertaken at the grandstands at the fall fair.
It's under mayor's business.
Yeah, I've got that
Is it?
on. I've got that on my
Crazy.
agenda. Oh, caught ya.
Uncanny.
Yeah, I'll give it. I'll have that as an agenda item today. I wanted to give a brief update on it. So
Okay.
good. Anything further, Councillor Wilbur?
Just quickly, I was beneficial that you weren't here, so I got to attend the spring rodeo.
Oh, thank you.
It went very well. It was well attended for their first event, and I'm sure I'm not still over the cringes as those bullhorns come close to those riders or the rails, but they did really well. There was one gentleman that actually flew from Texas to Calgary, rented a car, drove to Whitecourt, drove to Dawson Creek Road, picked up his saddle, and drove back to riding Camrose the next morning. So very dedicated people to this sport. But it was fun, and it was interesting to see our younger population not so much participate in the rodeo, but pay full price for tickets to dance in the dirt. So we had a lot of fun. And I understand they went till 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm too old for that, so I don't know. But anyways, just a quick update.
Good deal. Thank you. Yeah, I heard it was very well done and good entertainment for everybody. And
Yeah.
great. Thank you. Anything further? Item 3, we have our minutes of our regular meeting of April 14th for adoption. Councillor McFadden, Councillor Malkinson, were there any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Correspondence. Item 5.1, we have a letter from the president of the Dawson Creek Seal Swim Club. Councillor Parslow.
I move that we receive this and grant them permission for the use of the parking lot for RVs.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wilbert.
Yeah, and I just
Discussion?
haven't put it, they're just also asking for garbage barrels, picnic tables, and barricades. Is that something we've done before?
Through your worship, yes.
Thank you.
Do we need to add that?
Do we need to add that in, or
Sure.
just?
Probably should, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, we have a letter from Ozan Yamak, the Dawson Creek Plant Manager from Air Liquide. Councillor Parslow?
Move that we receive this. I do have some questions
Okay.
to ask.
Seconded by Councillor McFadden. Discussion?
They're basically informing us that they have got an application because they need to use natural gas generators for their operation because of the inadequacies of the online system. I just wondered, and this is an unfair, I don't expect staff here to have the answers to this, but maybe when our energy manager comes, I just wanted to know really about the solid particulate matter that the 3 tons or so that would be added to our air from this thing. How does that how does that compare to the total particulate matter that we have? Is it significant? I just have no reference point for those features that were put in their application.
Through your worship, our energy manager could put it in context
Yeah.
of our own emissions, but I'm not sure, in fact, I'm sure we do not have a figure for the total emissions from the entire community.
Yes?
No, that's as I said, I thought it was an unfair question, but I certainly have no reference point for the data that they put in their application. I do know that we have particulate monitors in the community, and I wonder, do we get reports on that, Jim?
Through your worship, we have a partnership where there are monitors on a couple of schools in town to monitor air quality, particular involving particulates. Yes, we do get reports on those, and What becomes of them, I don't know, but I can find out for you.
Well, I'm just trying to get some context for this application so that we might want to respond or not.
Thank you. Further discussion?
So,
Councillor
Your
Malkinson?
Worship, I suppose staff will follow up with this information, and depending on it, we'll decide further action at a future council meeting if that's our will. Is that
I have no direction to bring back a report, Your Worship. We can ask the energy manager when he reports how 3 tones a year stacks up. We can ask Kevin, Committee of the Whole, when he reports what happens with data from the air monitoring. But keep in mind, this is an application to extend a use that council already passed no objection to the first time, waiting for the DCAT line. So staff hadn't anticipated that you would allow the business to open, allow it the first time to have generators, and then when the DCAT didn't arrive, tell it had to close down.
Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, that's true. Just looking at the last sentence or last paragraph, but it's a sentence as well. Any concerns you may have can be directed in confidence. And I just thought, well, gee, I have no reference point for the data here. So I'm just interested in understanding the data better. So maybe when the energy manager's here and Kevin will I'd maybe get a better picture of it.
Sure. All right, and certainly it speaks, I think, to the importance of the DCAT line for us in terms of servicing our community. And hopefully, I see that construction is well underway, and hopefully that addresses the issue for us in the long term as situations like this come where we're able to hook to the grid and not have to have industry utilize different modes for their energy supply. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So it's we're going to move into reports. We're a bit ahead of time for our delegations. So we have report number 1407571 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development on a development variance permit. Councillor Parslow?
I move that report number 14-075 from the Director of Infrastructure Sustainable Development, Redevelopment Variance Permit number 14-01 for Jonathan Eagles, requesting the combined maximum floor area for accessory buildings be increased from 70 square meters to 81.8 square meters at 9129 Calvary Crescent be received. Further, development variance permit number 14-01 be refused on the basis that the building will alter the residential character of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, report number 14072. Councillor McFadden?
I would make the motion, Your Worship, that report number 14072 from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding Memorial Arena concession and time clock lease agreement be received, and further that Council direct staff to separate the Memorial time clock from the Memorial concession agreement and issue a request for proposals for a concession operator, and further that the Memorial Arena time clock agreement between the City of Dawson Creek and Dawson Creek Minor Hockey be approved for a 5-year term commencing April the 1st, 2014 and ending March the 30th, 2019.
Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Councillor Kenny. Discussion? Councillor Malkinson?
Your Worship, I was wondering if there were some way that we could encompass this into the principles that are in the fees and charges policy. And I realize that it was a gift and that it was this was undertaken, under the understanding of the old rules. But I'm wondering maybe with this request we could make it understood that the DCMHA would comply maybe in 2019 or sometime beyond that. Does staff have any comment on that?
Through Your Worship, I'm not sure what the direction would be. The fees and charges policy applies broadly to places where you're assessing a fee or a charge. In this case, you have a long-standing agreement where minor hockey assisted in fundraising for the clock and have been awarded several successive 5-year terms where they're not charged anything. What they're given is the right to sell advertising as a fundraising vehicle. The council can end that arrangement at any time. In fairness to the group, if you were planning to end that, you might want to give them some lead time so that they could find alternative fundraisers. And I just don't know how the public-private goods continuum would apply to this arrangement. And we've long since lost the connection between the original cost of the clock and any funds that have been raised. And if you apply the policy, what you would be saying is that's a city clock, the revenue should go to the taxpayers, minor hockey's out of the deal. If that's your intention, we can certainly do that.
Okay. Thank you. Further discussion? Does that answer it for you, Councillor Malkinson?
It's certainly an answer. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 7.3, we have a report number 14076 from the Chief Financial Officer, Councillor Wilbur.
I'll make the motion that report number 14-076 from the Chief Financial Officer, March 31st, 2014, consolidated budget variance report be received for information.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor McFadden. Discussion? Questions?
Well, I have no questions actually on this, but I want to say that our Chief Financial Officer is obviously trying new ways of getting our attention. I like the pictures.
Well, I have to commend the deputy chief.
Oh, I see.
That was her idea, so it was a good one.
Anything that breaks up the presentation.
Caught our attention.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Malkinson.
Yeah, I'm certainly thankful for the pictures as well, Your Worship, but one sort of bit that jumped out for me was the, I'm just trying to find the figure here. What I have written down is 30,000 more because of increased swimming at the pool. Is that, that's the typical trend, is it? I think that's, although I believe I do remember some conversation about that in the past, I do think that it's something to note, you know. But does staff, I don't know, does our CFO have any comment on that?
Actually, through your worship, I did look at it. If you want more information on whether it's volume or pricing, we can look at that, but it wasn't significant enough to do a detailed analysis, but it is,
Yeah.
it is good news for the first quarter, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Further questions or comments on the consolidated report? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, we have a report number 14071 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development in regards to the Rack-em-Up business license suspension. Councillor Malkinson.
I'd like to move that we receive this report from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the Rack-em-Up business license suspension, and that Council consider the appeal of Mr. Shannon Kish based on the presented operational business parameters. And perhaps for those present, I could read the parameters. Is that necessary?
So let's make the motion and then we can
Sure,
follow
yeah,
it through there.
yeah,
Councillor
you bet.
Kenny seconded. Councillor Malkinson.
Yep, certainly. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the following, I suppose, parameters are proposed right now. That the shed on the property will remain locked and will only be accessible by the current landlord, Wade Benning, and that there are no further illegal activities on the property, and that drug-free zone signs will be placed on the property, that there will be an additional inspection of the business by the building department and the fire prevention officer, and that if it is determined by the RCMP that further illegal activities are happening on the property, the business license will be permanently revoked in accordance to the information stated below, and an appeal would no longer be considered. And for information, it is provided there.
Thank you. And those conditions have been acknowledged and accepted by Mr. Kish, who's in attendance today. Is there any further conversation or discussion in regards to this?
Well, after this motion is passed, surely we need to have a motion to reinstate the business
Yes.
license?
Yes,
Or is that,
Yeah. Further discussion, questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
So I'd like to make the motion that we reinstate the business license in accordance with the hand-delivered correspondence to Mr. Kish, which is part of this agenda and which he has accepted.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Parslow, seconded Councillor McFadden. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So, Mr. Kish, you're back in business.
Good, thank you very much.
Item number 7.5, we have a report from number 14077. Councillor Malkinson.
Move that we receive this report from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the appointment of a bylaw enforcement officer, and that Aaron Avey be appointed as a bylaw enforcement officer for the City of Dawson Creek, and further that the appointment of Shannon Kowal be rescinded.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, or Councillor Wilbur, sorry, seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Do you want to move into our delegations a little bit ahead, or do you want to go into bylaws?
Bylaws.
Bylaws? Okay. Item 8.1, our parking bylaw number 4214. Councillor Malkinson?
I move we adopt it.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Kenny. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have a report number 14-073 regarding our loan authorization bylaw. Councillor McFadden?
That report number 14-073 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding a loan authorization sewer trunk line 2014 bylaw number 4199 2014 be received, and further that as approval from the electors has been received through the alternative approval process, that loan authorization bylaw number 4199 2014 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Kenny. Discussion. So, Councillor Malkinson?
If you wanted to speak, Your Worship, by all means. There was a couple of things that I had written down.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship, thank you. No, I was just wondering, it said that I was wondering what kind of response or opposition there were to on the alternate approval. It says that less than 10% submitted a response form. Did any submit a response form to this?
Through Your Worship, there were no responses received.
Oh, okay. And I was just curious as well why it would, there was a reference in here about it taking 2 years for the boring to be drawn on. I'm not familiar with the processes too much, but I'm wondering why it would be so long given the urgent nature of the work.
Through Your Worship. So the process is, Council's adopted the loan authorization, so there's one more step, a 30-day quashing period. In the meantime, the construction of the trunk line is beginning. So the next step, as the work is done, temporary borrowing bylaw is authorized as well, so that allows us to draw money as the project is constructed. So it's kind of like a, what's that loan?
Line of credit?
No, there's a different kind of loan when you build a house. So you
Draw
draw-
mortgage.
Yeah, so you draw on it as the expenses are incurred.
Mhm.
And once the project is complete and all the temporary borrowing is done on the project, so the funding matches the cost,
Mhm.
then we go out and get a long-term loan on it. And the reason that we do it that way is that if, for any reason, the amount that is authorized is over the amount of the project. We only borrow what the project actually costs. So it's a work in progress as the project gets completed.
That makes sense, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? So for the benefit of the public, this sewer trunk line is a significant piece of core infrastructure for our community. And in terms of the growth that's going on in our community, the development, we're going to put in a sewer trunk line that's going to run on the south side of the CN rail tracks, in which we've got the right-of-way agreement now with CN. It's going to start at 13th Street, so it'll draw the north side of our community, connect into 13th Street, and then transition down the CN trunk line, CN railway lines along the right-of-way, without having to interfere with any residents, business, much in terms of roadway, in order to complete this significant bit of infrastructure work for us. Carry it to the east side of town, out by the co-op, First Street, I think, in there, and then transition south into this sewer lagoon system. And so, to me, I think it's really an important bit of work that certainly this community, this council has been dealing with over the last 2 or 3 years, and important for the community and the residents that are the south side of town, who have been facing flooding of their homes with raw sewage in those extreme situations when we get the spring runoff, and the system and the growth in our community can't sustain itself without doing this really important work. And so I really appreciate the work that administration and Kevin has put into this to get us to this stage, and really look forward to seeing this this work get done. People need to rely on good, solid infrastructure for our community, and this is one piece that's significant in my view that we get done. So I appreciate it to administration and council for getting it moving forward. Any further comments? Councillor McFadden?
Did you say the south of the CNR tracks?
That's right. That's my understanding, Kevin?
South, no, Three Rivers should be just on the north side.
The
Yeah.
north side of the tracks? Sorry.
Yeah, because we have the NAR Park and Brown Social House, and
But it'd be run along the easement.
It's on the
of
right of way.
worst
on
of,
the right of way.
worst of all is Tim Hortons would have to be disrupted.
Further conversation, comments? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Glad to see Councillor McFadden's paying attention to these things. It's good.
I was worried for a minute there.
Item 8.3, we have a report number 14080. Councillor Parslow.
I'd like to move the report number 14-080 from the Chief Financial Officer, Loan Authorization Bylaw number 4216 be received. Further, that loan authorization 2014 sidewalk replacements bylaw number 4216 2014 be given first 3 readings, and staff be directed to forward the loan authorization bylaw to the Ministry for approval. Further, that the deadline for elector response forms be set for at least 30 days after the second advertisement is published. And further, that the elector response form attached to this report be approved.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 8.4, report number 14-078 from the Director of Corporate Administration. Councillor Malkinson.
Move that we receive this report, and that the local area service parcel tax roll preparation bylaw number 4209, parcel tax bylaw number 4210, local area service establishing bylaw numbers 4211, 4212, and 4213, and loan authorization bylaw number 4215 be given the first 3 readings, and further that staff be directed to forward the loan authorization bylaw to the Ministry for approval, and further that the deadline for elector response forms be set for at least 30 days after the second advertisement is published, and further that the elector response form attached to this report be approved.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Kenny. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to our delegations. First delegation, item 6.1, we have Kit Fast from the Dawson Creek Art Gallery is in attendance regarding the cancellation of the visual arts program at Northern Lights College. Good morning, Kit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. As Barbara Swale, President of the South Peace Art Society.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'd like to thank the Mayor and Council for the opportunity to come here this morning and address you about a serious issue for the community, the cancellation of the visual arts program at Northern Lights College. So what we're here for is to start like a broad-based community discussion about the value of the program and options that we can then explore with the college and the city and the province, and I think the city has a role in playing that. The decision by the board to end such an important program has a serious negative impact on the students, young and old, and harms the long-term health of our communities. I'll include communities because the college does serve the entire region, northern region. Especially when we try to meet the challenges that we're faced with the sustained growth that's expected for Northeast BC. In general, when I'm speaking to members of the community, people are shocked and a little bit disbelieving that the program is canceled. And the immediate reaction is that the decision was made without any community consultation. The program has a 38-year history at the college, has been important to so many people through all those years, and I think the people deserve to have a full and fair discussion about its future. So we'll start to make our case for the values that it has towards the community. I'll start with economic value because I think there's a perception in the community and in general that the arts don't produce real jobs, that the arts are just something that's a bit of extra, and if it goes away, it doesn't really matter. This includes an attitude within the school system itself that turns away students that have an interest but are easily swayed to go the other way or discouraged from pursuing the arts. In the letter that I provided a list of people who actually own a business in the downtown, which we all know has its challenges. The one is Puig Forte, owner of Picture It. She's a graduate of the program. Elena Tuttle is the owner of Busbin's Tattoos. She's a graduate of the program. Trina Gower took the photography portion of the program when it ran, and she now has a business downtown and employs at least 2 people who have taken portions of the program, who have returned to upgrade their skills. And New Harvest Media has recently hired a person to do graphic design, web design, and she was participating in the program. So the jobs that relate to the arts and that program in general are real, and they're expanding as part of the so-called new economy: graphic design, web design, communications, publishing, advertising, and more. Whether you recognize it or not, this program creates real job opportunities, and these are real careers. The next point would be economic diversity. I don't know how many times I've turned on the radio on CBC and listened to a community leader in any number of communities in the north. Tumbler Ridge would be an example, and what they talk about is economic diversity. We need quality of life so that we can attract people, to have them come here, work, and stay and live. But every time there is a boom that comes along, we ditch that plan B and we just go with plan A. And instead of pursuing plan B or C, we just kind of double down on plan A. So this is in fact plan B. Provide opportunities for your youth, and especially when it comes to education. If they pursue their education in your town, in your community, in your region, they're much more likely to stay. Do you want to add anything to economic value?
No, I think you're doing a great job.
Okay. So community values. The program is all about keeping options alive for education alive in your community. And I've already stated my point. We're cutting options in our community as it expands is to turn away from that community priority. The visual arts program is only one of its kind that serves northern BC after the only other one, and I would make a correction to the letter that I submitted. There is a program in Prince George and South, the College of New Caledonia. But again, this is our only serious academic program for the arts that serves this region and north. In the last 5 years, Jennifer Bowes at the program has worked hard to turn it into an academic program so that it's now gained affiliation with Emily Carr University. So the person who takes, for example, comes out of our Citizenship 59 and takes the program can stay in the community, and that year of programming will go towards the foundation year at Emily Carr. It's also associated with various other colleges, and she's working toward having a broad accreditation across the province. So what we're talking about is a serious program. It's not just a bit of fluff that's extra to the community. It's a serious academic program. The program also includes the chance for dual credit programs. I don't have the numbers that have gone through the program in the last 5 years, but I know that this is an opportunity for a high school student to take college level programs while attending high school. The other stream that comes from that is the mature students that come to upgrade their skills and knowledge and add value to their professional and community life. Students of the program use these skills and life experience to operate businesses, earn a living, teach workshops, volunteer in the community, and help create that diversity. An example would be Mary Modishaw, who went back and has taken programs throughout the years and now is heavily involved in teaching printmaking along with Mary Parslow. She started the Art Walk program a couple of years ago that runs in the community, and is featured in both Mary Parslow and Mary Modishar are featured in this issue of Art of the Peace. Again, I would emphasize the program sets a high standard of instruction and inquiry and helps shape what we're all looking for, an innovative and healthy community. I want to touch on the provincial funding. And we fully recognize that these cuts are a result of provincial cuts to advanced education. If you go back and look at a lot of the media releases around those cuts, the province line takes is that they're minor cuts and they can be done through reductions in administration and looking for efficiencies within the system. How realistic that is, I'm not sure. That would be something that the college would be sure to respond to. But I don't want to deflect the debate away from the college's decision to the provincial. We're not going to change the province's mind anytime soon. The decisions within the college are what we're disputing. They've chosen to end a program rather than finding another way or another option. Enrollment. The issue of enrollment has come up. Again, the program has run for 38 years. In the last 5 years, it has met or exceeded the minimum required enrollment in combined full-time and part-time students. I've asked for the detailed enrollment stats for the last 5 years. We met with some members of the college on last Friday. They didn't provide that detailed information. Their general statement was that the average would have been 6 for the last 5 years. It was adequate to run the program, but if it was to continue, they would require 12 full-time enrollments, the equivalent of. My question would be from them is to back that up with statistics, and I'm not quite sure why you would run a program for the last 5 years with 6, and then all of a sudden it requires 12. Their option now, as it's presented, is to end the program and to have it continue under the continuing education programs. This isn't an adequate option. There's no transferable credit at that level, so the academic standards that we've strived for the last 5 years to get would no longer apply. Once you run it as more of a community continuing ed program, the level of qualification of the instructor is not the same, and perhaps the standard of education would not be the same. The college has raised the issue of part-time students, the mature part-time students taking the same course over and over, and this would be an indication that the actual qualification, accreditation isn't important to them. And I think that misses the point. The reason these people are taking these courses is because of the quality of instruction. The quality, and also if you change instructors, you have someone else come in, you get a different viewpoint, different method of instruction. It's that broadening of your, quality broadening of your skills and your knowledge is what those people are after. And that knowledge is transferred back into the community through art programs, workshops, and exhibitions at the gallery. The next suggestion by the college when we met on Friday was that an advisory committee be established to help guide the continuing ed program. Again, a great idea, but it misses the point. We need that full program with accreditation. So we believe the mayor and council can play an important role in addressing those issues, and most importantly, the lack of consultation from the college, and just ensure that we have a full discussion about the value of the community, of the program for the community. And
I'd just like to add very briefly. First of all, I want to say that one of the things that stands out here is that the city is losing one of the key pillars of sustainability in its cultural capacity by losing this program. We understand the college has in its charter the obligation to support the cultural life and well-being of the communities that it serves. There was a huge hue and cry when the college diminished the program back in the 80s by removing it from the city of Fort St. John. People have driven to Dawson Creek over the last several decades to continue to take the college course while Lane Dolan was running it, and since Jan Baus has taken over. The quality of that program has only continued to increase. I've lived in many, many communities, and I've never lived in a city that has, or a region that has a more vibrant, more dynamic arts community than we have here in the Peace. And the college, whether it is aware of it or not, has been a major contributor to that power and strength that we have. Removing this is of significance to the city. It's not just a decision that the college is making out of pure economic need. So we really do feel that the cities of Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, Hudson's Hope, Chetwynd, all of our communities, Tumbler Ridge, Fort Nelson, if you look at your cultural life and understand the value of that, and the 4 steps make that very clear, and it is the foundation under which all decisions are made in the city of Dawson Creek. You can't remove this and not have an impact. And that impact is even more profound at this time when we're having such an influx of newcomers. If they don't have a cultural fabric, I suppose you could say, to hang on to get a hold of, to participate in the creation of, and the enjoyment of, very quickly our cultural community our whole cultural foundation will be diminished, and I think I've made that point very clearly. So I think that from the city's point of view, it's clearly a situation that deserves addressing. I know that if this were something that the city had control over, that consultation with the community would have occurred. It's very much an appreciated aspect of how the city runs its business. You'll notice today there are people here from Fort St. John and other communities. because we care that much. It's been that important to us. We will actually ask the regional district as well to recognize the significance of this decision. And we would like to ask the city to help us in any way that the city can, with whether that means meetings with the college, whether that means letters of support to our MLA, Minister of Advanced Education, perhaps your representation at the regional district. There are many, many ways. Even industry has never been consulted. Industry is more than happy to help. The college even made that point when they met with us. And yet they've never been asked. And industry even recognizes the value of a strong, healthy, vibrant cultural foundation in the communities that their workers are coming to. So I hope that the significance of this decision has been transmitted to you today, and we'd like to know if there's any ways in which the city feels that they can help and answer any questions that you might have that we can.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden?
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for coming in. Have you talked with our MLA about this?
Briefly, and,
Yeah, okay.
and the equivalent letter has gone to
Yeah.
the MLA as well.
It seems that, Your Worship, that there's a bit of a disturbing trend here. I mean, why visual arts? Why not culinary? Why not carpentry? I don't know. But very recently, there was a series of meetings in Dawson Creek with industry. I think the chamber was involved in it, and the college, and they were doing some studies on the need going forward for tradespeople. And that article was reported that meetings were reported in the paper. And in that very same paper, there was an article that they had cut funding to the trade schools in Dawson Creek at the college. So it's a disturbing trend. We should be doing something to assist you, but I don't know what it would be. A letter? I don't know. I don't know what to do about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think,
Councillor?
sorry, I would just follow up on that. I think from the meeting on Friday, one of the things that they did say was that they wanted to focus on a skills-based education. And they're kind of getting that direction from the province. We have an expanding economy and we need all these skilled workers. I just have to make the point again that skilled workers exist in all kinds of jobs, careers.
Councillor Parslow?
I think it's, first of all, I should say that I may have some conflicts here. Not pecuniary, and maybe you can't have a conflict around the emotional side of things. But as the president of the Peace River chapter of the Federation of Canadian Artists and the organizer for many things for Flying Colours, and have been quite involved with the Art of the Peace, when I heard about this, I was totally shocked. Because I guess, like our delegators here, who I would have expected to have had at least a year-long engagement, recognizing that the college has a problem. I would like to understand the problem, and I think we need to all understand what the problem the college has. But it really frustrates me when we haven't been engaged as a community, because what has been shared here is absolutely true from my perspective. Everything they said, and on the other hand, I know the college is challenged with enrollment issues, even in the. And it just horrifies me that the college is just about skills for the job market. I mean, if that's your impression, that just disturbs me, that it has to be so much more than that. I think that the college does have some challenges, as I said earlier, around enrollment, but it has that in the skills areas as well. I mean, but the difference is that in this community alone, there's many other ways of accessing that skill training, at least some of it through private enterprise, private companies. I think there may be 6 or 7. I'm sure that's true in Fort St. John, or maybe even more so being a larger community. But here we have no option. In this particular case, this is it. And I can't help but reflect back to the wonderful music program we had here under Mel Florellin. And I remember him presenting to me when I was superintendent of schools a list of, I think it was close to 90 people who had graduated from that program who were earning their main income through that area of cultural expression. So I am, and you know, I know the college has its challenges, but really when I see process not being followed, and I'm not saying the college hasn't notified people maybe a year ago that there was a concern, but I don't know who. Because I don't know of any art organization that received that, but I hear that they did put something out, which just shows you that the written newsletters or that is a very limited form of communication. So I don't know what can be done, Mayor, but all I can say is yes, I know of many people who are, I mean, we talked about doctor shortage. I can think of 2 doctors in our region whose spouses, the art program sustains them in this area, and that's true for many other professionals. So this has ramifications for not only the quality of life, but it also has ramifications, I think, about the sort of the general overall culture in the community from the point of view of how we do business. I'm thinking about how the college does business. And I really would have thought that there'd be a higher standard of engagement, at least for something that's so pivotal in our community, that we wouldn't have had at least a year-long dialogue, because I would like to have a win for the college and a win for the community. Right now, it's maybe a lose-lose. The college loses a lot, but the community's losing a lot more. And I don't know. I'd like all council to think about what we can do to be proactively engaged. Your comment about industry is right on. I don't wish to mention companies' names because that might be advertising for them, but you are right on. Major oil companies are certainly concerned about the quality of life for their people and the need to attract professionals to our community, and they're certainly, in my experience, willing to back that up. Thank you.
Further comments? So, I got 3 or 4 things that are kind of percolating along for me in terms of how the role that I think this board, council can play in terms of being, trying to advocate the message on behalf of the arts community and our community, and certainly agree with those statements that the passion for our community with the Arts Council, the arts community is always evident in everything we do. And as Councillor Parslow has indicated, and you guys have, that it's that passion for our community that brings that fabric of a quality of life that absolutely builds our community. So we need to kind of think about that in terms of how we message and manage it, and maybe we'll bring it back under Mayor's business with a couple of recommendations that we can bring forward for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this morning. We appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6.2, we have John Kalischuk and Melanie are here this morning in regards to our Drinking Water Week proclamation. Thanks for coming this morning, everyone. You want to take a, or no, we'll move through. Is John and?
Yeah, they're just waiting,
Okay.
waiting to be able to come in.
Program. Really? Good morning, good morning.
I was signed up for the boarding class. I know Dr. Men's birds, right? I know
Morning, morning.
Another doctor.
How are you?
How was Nick told me how was sustained. So I was here. Doctors, but they
This is Crystal from Northern Health.
Crystal, nice to meet you. I'm Dale. I'm the hugger. Hey, Mike. Good morning.
Pretty soon we won't
So,
get anybody for proclamations.
Our proclamation this morning, whereas human health is dependent upon an abundant supply of pure, clear, clean drinking water. And whereas safety, quality, and abundance of water can only be safeguarded by sound environmental protection, appropriate treatment, and properly maintained distribution systems. And whereas we are all stewards of our water infrastructure and the watersheds which future generations depend upon. And whereas each citizen of our community is called upon to help protect our source waters from pollution, practice water conservation, and to get involved in local water issues. And whereas the federal, provincial, and local governments, as well as concerned organizations, are cognizant and supportive of measures which promote safe, clean, and abundant water and responsible wastewater management. And whereas one such measure involves heightening the public awareness of the value of our drinking water resources and encouraging the public to promote this awareness. Now therefore I do hereby proclaim and invite all citizens in our community to actively participate in the week of May 4th to 10th, 2014 as Drinking Water Week in Dawson Creek. There you go. Thank you. So who wants to say a few words on behalf of?
Anyone?
I'll go first.
And then,
Pick John.
So next Tuesday and Wednesday at the water treatment plant and the water reclamation plant, we're having an open house approach this year, something different. It's organized through NEAT, so feel free to come between 9 and noon. It's just an open house. Anything bigger than 10 people in a group, we do recommend to kind of give us a heads up. And the Thursday and Friday, we're currently organizing some bus trips out to ARS intake through the raw water system and then into the water treatment plant and to the water reclamation facility.
On Monday, May 5th, we're holding a family event. It's going to be launching of the Waterfill Station and a water movie. So bring your kids, families out for popcorn and movies. So that's at K-Pac on Monday evening from 7 till 9.
Thanks, Bill.
Are we still releasing the water truck at night?
That's been relaunching it, yes. the
Okay.
Waterfill Station.
So one of the projects that Northern Health has worked with the city of Dawson Creek on was the purchase of a water truck so that we can give away free water at community events. So we're hoping to launch that on May 4th as well.
Fifth.
There we go. And I just want to say that the drinking water protection program is a huge part of what Northern Health does. And as we heard in the proclamation, drinking water is important in all aspects of life. And the Dawson Creek City here has a huge water treatment program, and it's top notch. And I would really like to see a lot of education go out, because there's a lot of misconceptions in the town about whether or not the tap water is safe to drink and the quality and the taste of it, and that's just not true. So I'd like to thank Dawson Creek as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming this morning. We appreciate it. Item 6.3, we have Tara and Aaron from our recreation area and community services in regards to our annual cleanup campaign and swap and shop. Good morning.
Uh-oh.
What?
Nothing?
Oh, another
Oh.
superhero? Are you worried? Good morning, you guys.
Just
Welcome.
a continuation of Kitchen Week was April 26th. And so since our weather wasn't quite ready for it, now we are kicking off the seniors pickup, which is scheduled Monday, May 5th and Tuesday, May 6th. That is for seniors, and it is a volunteer service for the Rotary clubs, both of them. So they'll be, we're taking a encouraging seniors to sign up by this Thursday. Even they could sign up Friday, we will continue on. And so then next Monday and Tuesday, the seniors will have their spring yard waste collected from the Rotary groups. And then it leads into cleanup day, which is Saturday the 10th. And we are taking 60 groups for that. And that is scheduled from 9 to 1 on Saturday the 10th at the Memorial Arena.
We're still looking for groups to sign up. We're about 20 groups short right now, I think, so.
And the swap and shop is scheduled for that Saturday morning, starting at 8 o'clock till 11:30. So drop off your fairly new, unused items, and yeah, join us as we swap all of the good stuff.
So thank you very much, and it is you know, it's a springtime, plus 20 on Wednesday, so it's time, and it's such a great event to be able to really brighten our community and give it a clean up over the after the winter months. And so we encourage everyone to get involved and come out and help support a really worthwhile event. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Matthew McWilliam, our Energy Manager, in regards to our Energy Management Program update. Do you want to take a quick break?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Take a 2 minute 5 minutes while you get set up? Okay. Thank you. Delegation, we have Matthew in, going to give us an update on the Dawson Creek's Energy Management Program. So Matthew, welcome.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. My objective is to give you just a brief update on where we've come, where we're at after 2 years of working away on these sort of things. I'm going to start off with the good news, which our energy consumption as a whole is decreasing significantly, and that's a very good news story. I'm looking forward to sharing that. And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe the not so good news, which is that rates are increasing significantly, which is offsetting some of those potential savings. And then just a quick recap on some of the work that we've done most recently and some of the upcoming projects for 2014 we've got on the books going forward. And then just a brief discussion about what's been challenging and what's working really well, the energy management program. And I look forward to entertaining questions as we go. So if there's anything you want to slow down on, I'll probably try to move quite quickly through. I've got a number of slides, and I won't dwell too deep into the details of the actual energy consumption numbers unless there's some curiosity there about it. We'll try to keep it relatively high level and try to focus on the dollars and cents and get an overall general view. So here's the good news. Overall, in the past 2 years, we've seen a significant reduction in both electricity and natural gas consumption, which is contributing to a bell-shaped curve, which is great. So when I first arrived in 2011, we'd seen a significant increase in the amount of natural gas and electricity that the city was consuming through our infrastructure. So this is just our corporate footprint. These are the buildings that we operate. And a large portion of that can be attributed to the addition of the Southeast Multiplex. So the good news story is that we saw this consumption plateau basically through 2010 and 2011, and then we started to see a significant reduction on the other side of that in 2012 and into 2013. A large portion of this can be attributed to projects that we've implemented through capital spending, but also a significant portion of this, and this was kind of the secondary benefit, is the operators became very interested in the overall energy management process and contributed significantly to this process. So a lot of those savings are in addition to the projects. This is operational changes that are taking place in the buildings, and the Southeast Multiplex is leading the charge by far, which is great. Any questions on that? From here, we'll get a little bit more into the details of individual natural gas versus electricity and that sort of thing.
Do we still use heating oil for any facilities?
Not that I'm aware of, no. They just use that as a blanket term.
Okay.
So more specifically, the energy use declined about 10% in 2012, and then an additional 8.2% in 2013. So cumulatively 17.4%, which is fantastic. There's not a lot of organizations that can say that they've managed to achieve this in a short period of 2 years. If we look at this just as electricity, roughly 4.8% in 2012, and then if you combine the total savings that we realized through 2013, we're looking at 7.8% reduction since 2011. So good news story on the electricity side. Once again, on the natural gas side, a total reduction of 23.3%, and with 9.4 of that happening in 2012. So natural gas is exceeding our electrical savings. And the interesting point here is we haven't dedicated as much capital towards natural gas related projects. The majority of these savings are coming through operational changes. So this, we have to thank the facility operators that are out there making these changes through adjusting the thermostats, adjusting their operations. Now, if we look at this as a miles per gallon sort of measurement, if we say, okay, we want to keep track of, you know, our city may grow or it may shrink over time. How do we get a sense of what this looks like going forward? We put together an intensity target. So we say, what do we look like on a miles per gallon standpoint, and how do we track that over time? If we were to add buildings or take them away, well, we have a energy consumption per meter squared of infrastructure. So we have a really good sense of what this looks like going forward, and then we can set some targets. So regardless of whether or not the city grows over the next 7 years, if we establish this target of 30%, which is one of the numbers that we discussed when we first arrived here 2 years ago, what would this look like on an annual basis? And if we set that target out there in the orange, you can see that we've far exceeded this already. We're nearly 2/3 of the way to that target, our 2020 target, in only 2 years. So that's a pretty good news story to see that we've made that kind of you know, overall reductions so quickly. This was above and beyond what we expected when we first started looking at, you know, what the potential impact we could have. Is there any questions around that?
That's not a question, but I think that's a very useful analogy, miles per gallon energy intensity, because one of the questions I was going to ask you, just for my own reference point, you know, with the Calvin Crutch Center, when that comes on stream, obviously that's going to add to the totals. But again, the city grows, we're going to have more infrastructure, more facilities. So maybe the thing we should be measuring is this energy intensity.
Absolutely, yeah. It's important to keep an eye on both.
That's the thing we need to be looking at. Yeah.
And that's a great point. If you look at this graph, I mean, it's a bit misleading in that we added a significant amount of square footage with the Southeast multiplex.
Yeah.
But if we only look at the overall consumption, we think, oh my God, what happened in 2008 and 2009 that contributed to such significant, you know, did the doors open for a couple of winters? What was going on? So it's good to be able to keep a sense of what's, you know, the overall picture as well. Now the downside of what's taken place in those last number of years is the actual amount of money that the city's been spending on energy has more or less plateaued. You know, despite those significant reductions we see in the smaller slide, we're still paying, you know, roughly $1.6 million a year if we include all of our fleet fuel, our natural gas, and our electricity. You know, you can see it changes from year to year, but overall, those rate increases that we're seeing, especially through hydro as of late, that they're starting to offset some of those savings. So we're having to run pretty fast just to stay still in terms of our overall utility bills. Now, if we were to take another step back, we say, well, what if we just did business as usual? What if we can, you know, continue to use the exact same amount of natural gas and electricity as we did at our peak in 2010 and 2011? Well, our utility bill would look probably closer to $1.5 million, and this is just for the natural gas and electricity portion. I've broken this out as opposed to the $1.3 million that we did spend. So we managed to keep that flat. What would have happened had the city not continued to reduce its energy consumptions? We would have looked at spending probably in the neighborhood of $250,000 in addition to what we currently had to spend. So that's the silver lining, if you will. And once again, a lot of that can be attributed back to the operational changes that the facility managers are making. This is great stuff to see them so involved. So those pesky rate increases, if we take a closer look and see what's going on, at least on the electricity side of things, the natural gas is a little bit more variable. We had basically a decade where the rates didn't increase at all. So subsequently, we're seeing a lot of catch-up going on. So the big one started happening in 2004 with nearly 5%, and then we get into 2009 with nearly 9%, and then once again, a couple big ones in 2010 and 2011 with 6 and 8%. Now in 2014, this just happened at the beginning of the month, we saw a 9% increase. Now we're looking forward to another 6% increase the following year, 4%, 3.5, and 3. So there's going to continue to be some significant increases on the electricity side of our utility bill.
What is this organization here, the RRA, final approved increase?
That would be their technical description of what's been approved.
Oh, okay.
Because these increases take place not on the calendar year.
Hmm.
That's something to do with that. So what does this look like in terms of the electrical spend for the city? Business as usual going forward. We're going to incorporate an additional $83,000 in spending in 2014. This is assuming that we make no additional changes or further reductions through operational improvements. The following year, we'll see an additional $60,000. 2016, we'll see $42,000. In 2017, roughly $39,000. We have to take these numbers with a bit of a grain of salt, but this gives us some sort of indication of what's coming down the pipe. So after 2018, we're looking at once again nearly $250,000 in additional cost for our electrical spend, assuming that everything stays exactly the way it is right now.
Yeah.
That said, we know that we're going to continue to make improvements. We've got the process in place now. The operators are on board, and there's already fantastic things happening on the ground. So it just goes to show that there is motivation to continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah, so these figures naturally are using the same footprint of buildings, but
Yeah.
so you haven't in the Calvin Crook, which is naturally going to have energy consumption. That isn't in this scenario.
That's correct. Yeah. These are very high level assumptions.
Yeah.
But this gives us some sort of idea of what's coming down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, once again, 28% increase in the next roughly 4 or 5 years. So the secondary benefit of these significant energy consumption reductions is also emissions. So once again, we saw that the overall corporate footprint for the municipality increased between 2007, 8, 9, and 10, and then roughly plateau in 2011. And once again, as those emissions, those energy consumption began to fall off in 2012 and 2013, well, the emissions fell in line as well. And a large portion of this is responsible is natural gas. Natural gas is consumed. So the red bar at the top, that's the electrical portion. There's been significant savings there, but it doesn't translate into nearly as many emissions reductions. However, the green bar is the emissions associated with the natural gas consumption.
So the emissions here are solely carbon dioxide?
This is the carbon dioxide equivalent. So we just take the overall impact of what natural gas is. Doesn't matter what individual elements constitute that. This was the equivalent in natural gas, in carbon dioxide. And this is our overall footprint. And just if you're curious, the purple at the bottom there, that's related to our fleet, which remains relatively stable, give or take. Operations on a given year. So what does it look like in cost avoidance? Well, if we recognize we have $100 per ton that we are taxing ourselves internally, plus an additional, I'm going to use the assumption of $25 because that's what we paid for our carbon offsets last year. What did we potentially avoid paying in 2012? Well, it's roughly $55,000 as a result of those liabilities. What does it look like if we compound that forward in 2013? Well, potentially $89,000 in carbon liabilities that we managed to avoid. I won't dwell on this slide very much. This just quickly breaks down all the individual natural gas, electricity, and carbon savings and puts them all together in a cumulative total. So the cumulative total for electricity was roughly $80,000. Cumulative total for natural gas over $100,000, which is very impressive considering we haven't put as many capital dollars towards those projects. And the carbon liabilities is another $145,000 cumulatively by 2013. So the combined total of all of that is $331,000.
You're giving us lots of that. Very nice. I love this stuff, but so it's just great. So just a question I have, and maybe it's in a future slide.
Yeah.
I did look at it yesterday, and let's say, do you have a breakdown of this, of what portion of the 79,000, let's say, electrical saving was, let's say, improvements in the technology, as opposed to changed practice, if you know what I mean, like switching
Absolutely.
things off?
And we have that at a high level. The challenging part is we don't implement all of our capital changes on January 1st.
Right.
The challenging part is those projects incrementally roll out throughout the year, with a large portion of them happening towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's relatively straightforward for us to calculate what the annual savings from each individual project will be. The hard part is we don't know at what point those savings start kicking for that particular calendar year. But we have a slide that goes into a little bit more detail on that, so we can sort of anticipate what those projects are going to look like going forward now that they're up and running, whether or not they began at the beginning of the year or a little bit. So So studies, a big part of making these improvements is identifying the opportunities, and then how best to use those opportunities in terms of capital dollars and operational improvements. So to date, we now have a study completed on the multiplex. This was wrapped up about 6 months ago, so there's some fantastic opportunities that have come out of that. We also had the opportunity to study this building, the fire hall, and the RCMP. That just wrapped up at the beginning of this year, and we're currently in the process of wrapping up a study on the overall water system, so right from the Cascadna down to our treatment facility as well, a water replant. So out of that, we have a lot of potential opportunities going forward to prioritize this as capital and resources are available. So now I'll get into a few more details just around some of the specific projects, just to give you an idea of sort of the process that we go through as we look at these opportunities. So I don't want to spend too much time on this slide, but basically this is how we track our individual projects. In the middle column there, we can look at the potential electrical savings. We can look at the savings to the city in terms of operations, maintenance, that sort of thing, and then we look at the cost, the incentives that are available through BC Hydro, and we can work out a payback based on those. So you put all of those together, and this is what it looks like to date. We're looking at a little over 500,000 kilowatt hours saved per year. This is an annual total. Well, that translates to dollars in terms of savings, roughly $66,000. So that's electrical savings plus the operational maintenance and that sort of thing. Total cost to the city that we've spent towards these projects is roughly $400,000, and BC Hydro is committed to give us back $90,000. We put that together, we're looking at 4.6 years to pay those projects off in terms of electrical savings and operational maintenance, that sort of thing. And this translates to an internal rate of return of 21%. I wish I was getting this on my GICs and my mutual funds, but unfortunately it's not the case. So far, this has been a fairly rewarding endeavor for the city to invest in these projects.
Just a question, and I'm displaying my ignorance here a little bit, but I think I'm on safe territory. The estimated simple payback, 4.6 years. Wouldn't I be right saying, if I think about the idea of compound interest, wouldn't the compound, say, a payback period be shorter?
And potentially, and you know what else is going on there is the actual rate that we're paying for electricity is going to change these paybacks. So, for example, a 9% increase in rates we're fixing this year, and our paybacks were short.
Yeah.
So it's once again, it's a moving target.
Oh,
We do
okay.
the best we can with the current information. But you're right. There's more variables than just a simple payback. This is just to help us get a sense of all else considered.
Yeah. No, I
all else
recognize the complexity and enjoying your dealing with it, but it just, maybe I need to just challenge. I just thought, simple payback, that's sort of a constant thing, but there's a compounding effect that it'd be hard maybe to translate. But so do you keep to compute these figures, do you keep the unit cost constant throughout and ignore the...
In terms of the electrical savings?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to a big rate increase like this year, it makes sense to go back and revise the numbers, absolutely.
Okay.
If it's relatively insignificant, you might not want to do that.
Okay.
But you're right, there's all sorts of assumptions that we can take into consideration and change how we look at this, but at a higher level, this is definitely...
Yeah, sure.
Going forward. So a specific project, for an example, is the Kin Arena LED lighting project that took place over the past year. The overall cost of this was $105,000, and this is for lighting above and beyond the Kin Arena. We call it the Kin Arena project because that's where the majority of the technology went into, but there's also some samples that went into, say, the parking lot and the multiplex, and some lights that we tested out here in City Hall as well. But the overall project cost was $105,000. BC Hydro committed just a little over $20,000 to that for a net cost of $84,000. And the estimated electrical maintenance savings was roughly $11,000, and a large portion of that is because it's actually fairly expensive to get a lift in there and make those ballast swaps or bulb swaps or whatever may be required to get those lights over the ice functioning. So this one's a slightly higher payback in terms of overall average, but that's because we're pushing relatively new technology at the time.
Yeah.
So we'd like to see this sort of thing will increase, the overall payback will get better as these projects go forward and the cost of power goes up at the same time as the cost of the technology simultaneously comes down. But this was pretty leading edge at the time. These lights are I'm not sure if we have any hockey players in the room or anybody that's had any feedback from these lights, but they've been really well received in that they're very controllable, so we can now not only turn them on and off with a switch, which our previous lights took 20 minutes to restart, but we can now control the actual dimming level. We can put them on a maintenance mode where they will automatically time out if nobody's around, and they'll just go back to 10 or 20%, so you can barely see them, but they're still there available if you walk underneath them. The entire area can light up for you. So they're very fancy lighting, and we now have them run through a computer as well, so we can track the amount of electricity that's gone through them, when the opportunities were to use them in an occupied mode or unoccupied mode as opposed to previous technology, which we left on.
Yeah.
Because it took 20 minutes to restart the lights,
Yeah.
so. Quite often I would go down there for whatever reason, and there'd be nobody under the lights, but the lights were blazing away. So these are great. These have been really well received.
Improved colours on the ice and improved puck visibility.
This is some of the
Is that
feedback I've been
anecdotal
receiving.
comments? Yeah.
Yeah, these are anecdotal. This is some of the feedback I've been getting from the operators
Yeah.
and you know, the user groups that are in there. So we know that we're looking at a roughly 70% electrical savings. We've taken light measurements. We know that they're twice what we previously had in there. We know this is going to contribute to our safety in terms of seeing pucks, seeing moving objects out there, and then the anecdotal feedback we've received on this project is that the colors and the lines and the ice stood out more, and you can actually see the puck a little bit better. And I think what people are typically referring to is they now travel outside of Dawson Creek and they play in other arenas.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here? I'm
Yeah.
not used to the dimmer light levels that we're seeing in some of the surrounding rings. The Kentmore Aquatic Center lighting project, so this one is currently about 75% complete. Unfortunately, some of the products hadn't arrived in time while we were going through shutdown, so it will have to be completed 100% this fall. But this one's great in that some of the improvements, especially the underwater lights, are going to have a significant payback. We used to burn through those lights every 9 to 12 months, the ones under the water and the hot tubs and the leisure pool and various pools. We've gone to an LED now, and I don't believe we've had any challenges. So we're about 8 or 9 months in. We've had a test one in for over a year, and they're all just working as they should. And they actually, in my opinion, even improved the water visibility in the hot tub. So now it looks like a more inviting hot tub. Councilor Matheson.
Yeah, I was just, am I reading this right? 85% reduction total in the lighting of the Kembor?
That's right. So the amount of energy or the amount of electricity that goes into that lighting system,
Yeah.
when it's all complete, will be about 85% less.
Jeez,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
And a large portion of that is because those underwater lights, they went through a fantastic amount of power, and the LEDs are significantly better.
They used to burn out quite regularly as well, eh?
That's right.
In these
And
last
if you go into the leisure pool right now, there's only a handful of the incandescent lights still functioning in there because they have now burned out in that last year and a half.
Yeah.
And that's the one pool we didn't have a chance to get into with the underwater lights, and subsequently we didn't have a chance to replace some of the overhead lights as well. So as a result of those huge savings with the underwater lights, primarily the payback is much more favorable on this cost or in this situation. So the overall cost of this project was roughly $123,000. The BC Hydro contribution, once again, nearly $28,000, and net cost was $95,000. So the maintenance, because once again it's an incredible hassle to get in and change those lights over the water or have them removed from the pool, also contributed to that impressive payback. So some of the capital projects that we have earmarked for this year. To take those similar lights, or the same lights that we used at the Ken Arena, and install them next door at the Memorial Arena, because they've been so well received. And do a series of retrofits to the parking lot lights at the Southeast Multiplex, as well as all the exterior lights. We're having the same sort of challenges there in that they're burning out, and it's challenging to get up there and get them replaced, or depending on the weather, depending on availability of contractors and that sort of thing. So quite often we are experiencing a lot less available lighting in these areas, and it's something that I think is going to be very positively received once we go to an LED that is much more reliable.
Matthew, we got another 2 delegations on
Okay,
that.
sorry. I won't get into the details of these two. We've also got some opportunities to reduce the pumping speeds at the pool, both in the air handling units upstairs and the circulating pumps downstairs. And all this is targeting is we don't always need to be operating the systems at 100% based on whether or not people are in the building using the building. Holidays, vacations, night times, that sort of thing. We can look for opportunities to reduce those a little bit. One of the highlights I wanted to point out was the Energy Hero program. So this is recognizing those facility operators that they're making the significant changes to their operations and translating into some serious savings for the city. So this just involves a written recognition from senior staff acknowledging their contribution and usually just a token of appreciation, so a gift certificate for a local business, that sort of thing. Here's an example. Tyler Hawkins at the Southeast Multiplex implemented this. So we rewired all the lights over the horse barns, and we can now run them at 40, 60, or 100%. He's got the lighting controls listed out there for the operators, and as a result, the horses prefer it this way, and we save it on electricity in the process.
Are those lights still fluorescent lights?
They are, yeah. There's another opportunity to go to an LED there and down the road, but for the most part, just operating them at a lower amount is making everybody much happier in that area. And I just wanted to note that the multiplex savings have been significant. So through Tyler Hawkins and his team, they managed to incur roughly $200,000 less in their utility spend in 2013 versus 2011. So they're driving a lot of these these savings across the city. So that this reflects very well on the overall organization. I won't get into the details. Okay, some of the challenges. The city's current electrical contract would benefit from a little bit more language around deadlines and priorities and timelines. I think that's an opportunity going forward. We continue to work around the narrow window for capital improvements in the rec facilities, given their shutdowns, and the Kenmore Aquatic Center is a good one. And staff shortages in certain facilities remain to be a challenge. What's going incredibly well is the collaboration with facility operators, resulting in huge savings for the operations. Continued support from senior staff, mayor, and council. I think without your support, this would not be possible, so I appreciate that very much. And BC Hydro has also been very fantastic in terms of their contribution towards studies and towards projects, and their overall support network is very beneficial. And the secondary benefit of having those studies done is quite often we're identifying opportunities that we weren't aware of that are relatively inexpensive or even free. One example is this building was scheduled to operate in occupied mode over the weekends, so that was basic. A couple seconds on the computer to switch that around and realize some savings to that in the future. That's all I have for you. Is there any questions?
One. Good job. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Matt, there was a bit there, I believe, at the beginning of the presentation about your future intentions.
Yeah. So I earmarked an opportunity to talk a little bit about that in the original presentation that was passed around, and so I've taken an opportunity to move back closer to my home, to friends and family, and I'll be leaving in a couple of days. But I feel that the city's well positioned, and that we have a fantastic candidate actually in the room to backfill that position. So there is some progress being made on that front as well. So I think the stage is well set for this program to continue, and that's largely to be the result of your support. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Matthew. And we appreciate obviously, the efforts and energy, passion that you've put into this project, and the results are evident in terms of the impacts to our community, and a huge credit to you, and we thank you for that service over the past number of years.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And we know you drank the water, so you'll be back to visit.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew, again.
Thank you.
Item 6.5, we have Mr. Dwayne Stewart from Western Canadian Properties in attendance. Good morning.
Worship. Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much for allowing me to attend today. This morning I'd like to talk to you about your OCP, which is a fantastic document and one that we paid a lot of attention to at Western Canadian Properties Group when we first decided to come to Dawson Creek. And this is a document that now is having the opportunity to be practiced. It was written and updated in 2009. It's your bylaw 4042. And council through staff has done a great job of compelling developers such as myself to comply with the OCP and to make sure that our development is in line with the vision laid out by previous councils. And we're excited to be a part of that. A big part of the OCP itself talks about stormwater. Stormwater management in Dawson Creek is a big issue, and it's one that I know that you've addressed in a number of different ways. But if you read the OCP carefully and you look at the intention of the writers, you'll find that stormwater management is a large component of what they've thought about, what they've spoken about. It comes up a number of times. Pages 184, 170, 200, page 175, and so on. It's mentioned in detail. Page 175 makes notes of stormwater ponds as part of the features of future neighborhoods, actually wanting to use it as park space and enhanced amenity area for future residents. Page 176 discusses stormwater for land uses and stormwater streets designated throughout the plan ending at these stormwater facilities. The particular part of the OCP that I'm referencing is Harvest View and Sunset Ridge. It's an appendix within the master OCP. And Kevin has been good enough to put up on the wall over there a representative plan of what I'm referring to. And you can see in the bottom left and the bottom right-hand corner of that map, two large stormwater detention areas that are anticipated. They're anticipated in those locations because the geography dictates it. It's not sort of an option. It's God has set land up in such a way that water wants to flow to those spots. And the streets you'll see are curved to take advantage of the natural lay of the land, and the stormwater streets themselves are designed to direct water towards those two particular facilities. Unfortunately, the structure of the land from an ownership perspective is not homogeneous. It was not all owned by one person, and today it is not all owned by one person. What I bring to council today is a request that either through your own motion or by directing staff, that you ask that council find a way to allow developers such as ourselves to have access to those lands for those stormwater detention. Currently, in order to achieve the development that we've done at Sunset Ridge so far, we've had to put a small temporary detention pond in and acquire the land for that to our north. That detention pond is suitable for the work that we've done to date, but it is not suitable in the long term. And the land in the bottom left-hand corner needs to be accessible both for ourselves and future developers. The complaint that we have is that the OCP, while considering and noting the requirement for stormwater detention, the council, upon adoption of the OCP, did not set up a mechanism by which those infrastructure lands could be accessed. The OCP does discuss that. On page 193, item 5.1, directs what I assume to be council to undertake policies to answer these issues. Sections 5.2 through 5.6 discuss further recommendations around stormwater management, and in particular, the stormwater detention ponds. The property in question is owned by Trent Lindbergh of Swamp Docky on the left, and the bottom right-hand corner, I believe, is still owned by Mr. Ravelli. At this time, no one has been required to comply with the OCP and with respect to stormwater management, and we're unable to further develop our property without the use of multiple temporary detention ponds. Those interim measures are not suitable and for certainly the people to our north. The further development of the property to the north, land that we do not own, will not be able to proceed in the method that we are currently undertaking. We request that the council consider adopting a motion that would compel the city to negotiate the purchase of the required lands across the city where the OCP requires the positioning of stormwater management ponds. Developers would then be back charged for access to these stormwater retention lands, resulting in a net neutral cost to the city as land is developed over time. It's not my intention that you buy land for us to develop, but it is our intention that you compel the owners of those lands to comply with the infrastructure requirements of the city. So that is our request today, and I'll take questions on that. I have one other item when this is, after any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes. Do you mind just repeating the last part you said there about back charging?
It would be my idea that developers would be back charged for access to the stormwater retention lands, resulting in a net neutral cost to the city as the land is developed over time. There's two issues really that happen. Now, one answer might be we'll go to Mr. Lindbergh and purchase the land from him and develop it yourself. Well, that's not something that we wish to do, in the sense that there is more land around it than necessary for the stormwater. It's only a portion of his land, but it is a significant portion. It's undevelopable in the OCP, and the city has not, at this time, undertaken a technique to carve that land off for infrastructure purpose. I know that occurs one more time in our area. I don't know where else in the city this conversation may be taking place, but I presume it may occur in other locations as well.
Thank you. Any questions?
Well, it's obviously a critical issue for the further development of this area, so
It's very
something we
critical.
have to pay attention to.
Thank you. Yep.
Mr. Henderson's well aware of.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
The last, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The last item I have, regarding the development cost charges recently adopted by City of Dawson Creek, we would like to request that the developments that were conceived of and approved before the current DCC regime are exempted from those charges. Our reasoning is that we did not anticipate these costs as part of our expenses. And I'm referring to a limited number of properties that have been approved by staff and that have already had applications in place. That's 5 remaining duplex lots along 87th, 9 lots along 17th, and the last 2 buildings of Sunset Ridge represents 12 units. It would not cover single-family homes or future development, all of which we anticipate on paying the DCCs. One of the offsets that I would point out is that we are participating in a major infrastructure project at our own cost, which is for the reservoir. We are providing both the fill line and the return line along Road 2. I believe that's 88th. That connects to the reservoir. So we're providing an important part of that infrastructure at our cost. And I would ask the council consider our request with respect to the existing properties only, not future properties.
Thank you. Any questions from council? So thank you for that. We'll bring it back to through administration and Jim.
Yeah, just before Mr. Stewart goes, I'm just wondering if he's taken any cell phone video here that's going to show up on the national news.
I promise that I have left my phone in my pocket.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. As you may or may not know, Mr. Stewart is the individual who took the cell phone video of the Air Canada baggage handlers that showed up all over the media.
Oh.
I flew Air Canada yesterday. They let me on.
Thanks for coming, and we'll bring it back through to administration for some updated information. Thanks for coming. Item 6.6, we have Ms. Susan Johnson in attendance. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Okay. On February 20th, 2014, I parked my car in front of my residence here at 10109 13th Street and Shaga Court, I believe it's pronounced, not quite sure. I've been a resident there for 2 years, very happy there. I know it's had quite the reputation, but it certainly has changed for the better. I usually park at the back of the building, but it was full. I have been on the list all winter for underground parking, but there's been no available parking yet. When I was parking my car, I was double checking for signs, making sure I was parking legally. Okay, this is what 95% of the people in Dawson Creek do, I'm told. From the people I've spoken to, is they check signs. I was taught that when I took my driving training course, to check signs. Excuse me, I'm a little shook up. It's a lot of money here. Okay, for me. I very rarely park on city streets, but because the parking was full in the back, I did. I was going away for work and wanted to make sure my car was going to be okay there, so I triple checked when I got out of the car. I was gone longer than planned, almost 2 months. April 17th, 2014, I came back and my car was gone. I phoned the police. They had no record of it. I started phoning towing companies. I finally found out that David with ProFast Towing had been called by the city to tow my car for snow removal. He told me he was charging me $25 a day for 2 months, plus the fee for towing. The estimated cost was $1,500. It's a pretty big bill. After negotiating with David, the lowest he would go is $800. I went to the city and spoke with Sean with bylaws. He was very nice. He said this has never happened before and he would look into it. A couple days later, he called me back and said there's nothing we can do. All our bylaws are in place. Very proud of all the bylaws, rightly so. Looks like you people have spent a lot of time on your bylaws. Okay. He said to me, everyone knows the bylaw that you can only park your car 24 hours. It's like the drinking and driving bylaw. This is what he told me. It's as popular as drinking and driving. It's up there with drinking and driving. 24-hour bylaw in the city. I said, Sean, you may know the bylaw, being a bylaw officer. I don't know the bylaw. As a matter of fact, 95% of the people I've spoken to, aside from my boss, Scott, who works for the fire department, doesn't know that bylaw. At the end of the conversation, I left the office. I went to the front desk here, spoke to these lovely gals, asked them if they knew the parking bylaw. They didn't know. One actually did after I explained it. Okay. Excuse me, folks. My question through this whole thing is, why wasn't I notified? I asked Dave at ProFast Towing, why wasn't I notified? And what is the procedure that he has to follow when he tows an unauthorized car? And he said to me that he has to fax something to the police. So I went to the police and asked them if they have record of my car being towed, and they said we don't. That they would, well, they actually said they would need my driver's license. So they said, or not my driver's license, excuse me, folks, my license plate number. They said go to the city. So that's when I proceeded to go to Sean. So Sean handed me this bylaw information, and he highlighted Section 5, removal of vehicles. And under bylaw number 3123, Section 5D, if a motor vehicle is removed, detained, or impounded for a period of 5 or more days, written notice shall be given to the register owner at his address, his or her address. So I hope, council, this answers my question here. And I was ready to go on holidays. I've been working for 2 years up here. All my money goes into Dawson Creek. I like Dawson Creek. I want to buy a house here. But really, my fate in my future probably lies right now, how you are going to handle this. Because everyone I have spoken to thinks this is absolutely wrong. I was supposed to be on holidays as of 5 days ago, but I've chosen to stay here and speak to you, as I don't know if a written thing would be as effective. Mind you, my nerves probably aren't helping much, so maybe it would have been better. But anyway, this is the bill. I paid the $800. I got my car back, and I'm asking you, the city of Dawson Creek, to please pay this bill for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Malkinson?
Well, thank you very much, Susan, for your words, and also for your I suppose thoughts and difficult. I can certainly sympathize with the difficult times, but allow me to maybe be so bold as to ask. You intended to leave your vehicle on the street for your 2 month. You were gone for 2 months, beginning in February. Is that right?
No, my intended length of departure was 28 days.
You're going to be gone for 28
Yes,
days
correct.
in February.
Yes, correct.
Mhm.
There was no other parking available.
Yeah.
The parking underground, as I said, I was on the list for. I have been all winter.
Yeah.
And also, the parking in the back was full.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no choice, and I very rarely park on city streets.
Mm-hmm.
I had a funny feeling, I have to say. It didn't quite feel right.
Like you said, you checked 3 times.
I
Yeah.
checked 3 times
See if
signs.
there was
I was
something wrong.
what I thought legally parked.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I came back, it was a little bit of a shock, to say the least.
Mm.
Thank you, Councillor McFadden.
Thank you. I guess more to staff than to the delegation. I've seen vehicles parked up in Reesback and Cornwall for 2 months that never get towed. So I'm assuming 13th Street is one of those ones where you put out the little signs when you're going to plow that says no parking, and then if there are, they get towed away. Is that what the difference?
Yes, through your worship. The general prohibition, 24-hour limit parking on a street is enforced by complaint only, the same as the rest of your bylaws.
Yeah.
This vehicle was towed under the temporary snow
Yeah.
removal signs.
Yeah.
And actually would have been towed possibly 4 different times in that 2-month period. We removed snow. As you know, it was very heavy snow here.
Mm-hmm.
We put those signs up, towed vehicles, and plowed probably 4 times in the period of time Mrs. Johnson was gone. So happened to be caught on the first one, could have been any of the next 3 as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? So thank you for that. We'll bring it back under mayor's business, and we will absolutely communicate with you in terms of council's decision.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming this morning. So we're through bylaws, and we're into mayor's business. First item, we have item 9.1. We have a letter that was sent under my signature to on behalf of the group looking at the sale of the Peace River Haven. Peace River Haven has been listed for sale through a commercial realtor. I had attended a meeting with the South Peace Community Living Rotary Clubs about 2 or 3 months ago, looking at alternatives for senior housing in our community, and the groups are looking at the Peace River Haven as that option. They wanted to engage Northern Health in the conversation, and as a result of it being put up for sale fairly quickly, we want to try and see if we can, as a group with the Rotary Clubs, the Society for Community Living, Village of Pooskoopi, and Dawson Creek supporting that concept to engage Northern Health in some discussion about it. So that was the intent of the letter that we've sent to and on behalf of the groups to Northern Health to ask if they can hold off, hopefully, selling that facility until such time as we can engage in that conversation and discussion. Certainly it isn't anything that the city, when I attended the meeting, the first meeting, it was more about the concept of senior housing and residential senior housing in our community on behalf of the volunteer groups, and could the city be involved in some way at some point in the future.
So would you like us to move to approve this position or this piece of, well, you know,
It's already sent.
It's already been sent?
Yeah, it's already been sent.
Oh,
Jim?
okay.
Through your worship, if council's going to discuss this matter in any way, I believe Councillor Parslow is in a conflict, and you're in great danger of losing any actions you take. So I think you should vacate the room, and then you should discuss it.
Thank you.
Tell me to leave, Jim.
I'm suggesting council is at great jeopardy if you remain.
Well, there's nothing left to discuss. The letter's been sent.
Yeah, like what are we
What's to discuss?
I'm on my way.
No, sit down, Charlie.
I have a question.
Okay, we'll ask Charlie to leave, and then
leaving. I'm gone.
Councillor Wilbur.
I'm just wondering, I realize the letter's been sent, but I'm also wondering why, I have concern that these groups didn't actually contact the mayor of Pooskoopi and have his signature put on there, considering this facility is in their community, not ours.
Yeah, I think they had put out a request to him, but I'm not sure of that. I was away.
Yeah, actually, I can respond to that. The mayor of Poos needed to take it to his council first, And so the letter went out prior to their council meeting.
Councillor Malkinson?
With respect, we didn't, if the Mayor Cluse needed to take it to his council first, we didn't, well, I suppose Dale has some sort of an understanding. The same thing wasn't done here?
Yeah.
So the mayor of Dawson Creek is also the community's economic development officer, so
There we go.
this is an area where he has authorities over and above
Sure.
the those contained in the community charter for a mayor.
Thank you.
That always creates some confusion, and the letter's in front of you now, so if you're of the opinion that he may have overstepped those boundaries, you can tell him now and we can send a correcting letter.
Certainly not. There's always some explanation that I'm usually missing, so that's good.
The activities and the actions, from my perspective, were more to support the groups in terms of engaging Northern Health in those conversations on behalf of the group, and certainly just lending our support to the community groups to engage in that discussion on behalf of the community groups for senior housing. So I didn't see it, honestly, as a issue that I was saying, well, we're going to step in and negotiate on behalf of them, or we're going to involve in it. Just simply saying, we want to make sure that we have, on behalf of those community groups in our communities for the seniors housing, to hold off perhaps selling that facility. So it wasn't, I'm not looking for, if council wants that.
Probably best, given the conversation, would be a motion ratifying the letter.
Okay.
Sure.
Councillor
So-
McFadden,
so-
Councillor Malkinson, discussion.
Question.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you.
We'll get Councillor Parslow back.
Take a hike, Terry. Terry's giving me a rough time here.
Is he?
Yeah.
He always does.
I would say something new.
Tomorrow evening, we have, next item is our budget consultation. So we're nearing the end of April and nearing the final stages of our budget presentation and budget process for this year, for 2014. We have our next meeting tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. The O'Brien Gym. So I encourage everyone to please come out and provide us with that feedback and information and questions or comments that you have about the budget as it's unfolding for 2014. And I don't know, Shelley, do you have anything you want to add to that?
There'll be cookies there.
There'll be cookies?
No, I don't. It's the final opportunity for residents to come forward and provide their feedback to council. And it's not specific to budget. It's basically an open conversation. So I just encourage everybody to come out.
Thank you. Next week, we have our Shearwater Phase 2 beginning on May 8th. Again, it's at the Encana Event Center. The next phase in this whole conversation for us as a community in terms of the water question and how that's unfolding on behalf of our community and the citizens. So May 8th at 7 p.m. The open house runs from 5 to 9 p.m. and presentations will be at 7 p.m. followed by that question and answer period. Again, encourage everybody who has some interest, and obviously this is significant conversation and discussion for our community, and encourage everyone to join in and come and provide us with that feedback in terms of the views of our Shearwater conversation and question. Last week, Thursday, Friday, I was in Cranbrook at the, I think it must have been the 5th session of the BC Mayor's Caucus. BC Mayor's Caucus was formed, in my understanding, about two and a half years ago. All of the mayors across British Columbia are involved in this organization. It's the one forum that gives just the mayors of this province the opportunity to engage in those common conversations and discussions about issues. This was my first full kind of go at it. I did attend the one at UBCM on September the 16th, 2013, but it was day 2 of my term as the mayor of the city of Dawson Creek, so honestly, it was like a deer in the headlights at that session. So this session was very worthwhile in my view, and so talking about and engaging on behalf of the mayors of the province, some real focus about common issues that we deal with as a communities and as the mayors. And it was, again, from my perspective, very worthwhile, and certainly I've come away with a whole new appreciation for the benefits of those relationships and contacts that a person has with the mayors across the province. And you learn so much from engaging in just that interaction with people who are in similar roles and situations, and also providing the focus of some initiatives that we as a group can take on. As I was sitting there thinking about, as an elected group, there's probably no group in the province of British Columbia as an elected group and or in Canada that represents such a wide set of the population of the province, because the governing body of the Liberal government in British Columbia, as an example, in the caucus, represent that 40 or 50% of the population who get elect them. And in the situation of having 120 mayors, or whatever the number is, there was about 70 or 80 in attendance in Cranbrook. That group of mayors are elected by every resident of the province of British Columbia who reside in a municipality. And so it's a huge representation, but very worthwhile. And again, I'm really pleased to be able to attend. I'm going to be asked, or I was asked by the area mayors in the Northeast. Mayor Ackerman in Fort St. John has been the representative for the Northeast Mayor's Caucus on the advisory committee. And so at the EBCM in September, I'll be taking on that role on behalf of the Northeast region, and that's done at the session at the UBCM. So I'm really pleased to be able to take that representation on behalf of the Northeast to that group on behalf of the region. The last item for me is I had a conversation last week with Duncan Redfern, Community Services, on the. I wanted to get an update on the grandstands, and thought it was appropriate that we have a bit of an update at today's meeting. So last week, the grandstands were structure only. The metal components of the grandstand are all that's left standing. The wooden components and all of that, the seating, stairs, et cetera, have been removed. We did run into a little bit of a hiccup through that process because of some of the components did contain some lead paint, and so that has been handled, disposed of, and looked after, and we're now moving on to beginning the process of reconstructing the seats and the stairs and all of that. And again, it's progressing very well, and so I'm obviously very optimistic that we're going to see that completed in a timely fashion for June, July. I always would like to say June 1st because I'm sure Haggies are watching the news, and so it always puts that little bit of adrenaline rush to them that we need to have that grandstand finished by August, and so we're well underway, and I just thought it was a timely update for council. So that's it for me in terms of my updates, and any questions from anyone?
I'm not wishing to upstage you, but I'll settle for the completion May the 31st.
I'll leave that to you, have that conversation with Olaf and John. Any other questions for me in terms of the mayor's business? Busy time coming in May with the budget and Shearwater and the North Central Local Government Association meeting next week, and there's a couple of conferences in Vancouver, so it's a busy May. The busy May coming. Thank you. Diary.
Oh, Your Worship.
Through Your Worship, you have 3 items from delegations that should probably come up
right.
in our mayor's
Sorry,
business.
my apologies. So the first one is the I want to deal with and raise is the issue of our request from the local arts council and society, and it seems to me that we don't. I certainly don't, and I don't know if anyone does have a guidelines for really that whole program funding component that's allocated from the province of British Columbia through to the board at the college. And to me, that's one piece of it that I'd really like to be able to engage with the board and get some understanding of that, so we at least understand the allocation and policy of the provincial government for that funding component. And then certainly to me, the next step is to write to the board on behalf of council, ask for an opportunity to meet with them and engage in that discussion around that policy component. And then the advocacy role that we absolutely play on behalf of this group and representing the community is to write to and complement that letter that they've sent to our MLA, Mike Bernier, to ask for his support to see if we can intervene and find a way to work our way through this. And finally, to write to the Ministry of Advanced Education, Amrit Burke, and express our concern about that component. So there's kind of three pieces to it from my perspective that I'd like to follow in terms of moving it forward. So I throw that out as just thoughts from myself. Councillor Parsel?
Well, good thoughts. As I understood the presentation by Kit Fast, I think he made mention that college talked about an advisory committee. I think that's a good suggestion, but it's too late. It's a year too late. I do think there needs to be an opportunity for all the arts organizations throughout the piece to have a dialogue with the college board who made this decision about the process, face to face, not with staff, with the people who made the decision. And I think the advisory board is something we need to explore at that discussion. And I think the city, with its, as I understood when I came on council, one of the pivotal things which was alluded to, I think, by Kit, and I'm sure staff can fill me in, but fill us all in if I make an error here, that one of the aspirations, I think, of council, which has not changed, nothing's happened with this council to change it, that I always thought that one of the aspirations was that the city of Dawson Creek, or the community of Dawson Creek, would be a hub for the arts, and this college program was a pivotal feature of that. So, not disagreeing with you in one iota, but I like the college's idea of advisory board committee, which, because I'm sure that happens for all programs at any rate, but it doesn't seem to have occurred here. But it seems to be that we should explore that. But I think it's a year too late in thinking about it from the point of view of the decision that has been made, which I've been told has been communicated as irreversible.
And I guess that, for me, that's part of this process of engaging with the board at the college to be able to have that understanding with them. So I'd like to extend that invitation to be able to meet with them, but also at the same time ask for that understanding of the allocation of funding as a component to that, because I think we need to understand that a little bit better in terms of their governance structure. And then we can engage in that, because I agree with you. I don't know that, why would we have an advisory committee or a session today when that decision's been made? Yeah. So to me, that's kind of the three that I'm thinking. Councillor Wilbur?
Yeah, I do agree with that, and so much Charlie's points, but what keeps coming to my mind is that they've been making this decision for a year, and nobody's done anything till now the decision's made. So I have concern that I do believe it's a valuable part of the community, but at the same time, nobody that thought it was so valuable came forward a year ago to say, here's the value and this is why this needs to stay this way. So I'm running along the lines that, maybe it is too late. They've made the decision, and what can we do about it? But I'm concerned that, they come forward after the decision's made and didn't try over this year process to show the value of having that in the college and the community. So I do have some concerns there.
Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, just the impression. Are you operating under the impression that the college board had made this decision a year ago?
No, but I think they were started down that process of looking at what.
Oh yes, they
right?
were.
So I think that anybody thought there was value in those courses should have maybe stepped forward and been a part of that conversation.
They should have been conversation, but I don't think any of these organizations knew.
I don't know, I'm just
I
saying.
certainly
And that's,
didn't know.
and so that's why I think we need to engage in that, just to understand the process, the structure, and the governance policy. I want to understand that better, for not only for this situation, but as it guides us forward from them, so.
They probably figured it was a successful program, so they just assumed that it was not gonna be one of the ones cut.
Yeah. So, Jim?
So you're looking for a motion then for 3 letters, basically, one inviting the board to a meeting, and 2 letters of advocacy, one to the MLA and one to the Minister of Advanced Education, is that
That's
correct?
right. Councillor McFadden?
So moved.
Thank you. Second it?
I'll second it.
Councillor Wilbur? Discussion? So just,
We're inviting the board to a meeting, or?
so for clarity, from my perspective,
College.
what I would like to do is first is understand the guidelines for the program funding, and I think the only way we do that is engage the board of the college and understanding that for the future, and also how it was impacting them in this decision. So I just think I need to have that information. We need to understand that information for them better, and then to write a letter on behalf of the community to the MLA and to the ministry, asking that we are advocating on behalf of the Arts Council for these programs to be reconsidered.
Speaking to the importance of them, yeah.
And I don't know if MLA Bernier was involved in it, or I just think we need to support that on behalf of the community. That's what I'm looking for in the motion. Councillor Wilbur?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think we need to have that other information first before we write our letters advocating. I
Okay.
think we need to have
Yeah.
all the pieces of the puzzle
All right.
before we write any letters advocating for anything. Not
Okay.
that I'm against, I'm not. I just want to have all the pieces
I can
first.
agree
Good
with
point.
that.
No, I'm good with that.
Mhm.
Any further discussion?
Well, so we're all in agreement about that, because the
Yeah.
motion on the floor is to send 3 letters right now.
So do you want to have it as you want to make that as an amendment, and you want to have the first meeting with the board before we
I would
make
like
the
to meet with
decision
the
around
board
the
first, then
Okay.
make the decision on writing the letters
Just
of
gotta make sure
advocacy.
how they made that decision.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
I
Good. So are you clear with that? You all right?
Yeah.
All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. The next item, we had the delegation, Mr. Stewart, here in regards to the Harvest View and Sunset Ridge, I think, Sunset Ridge, in regards to 2 components. And I think it needs some technical, my view is we need to have some technical information back from our administration in regards to the whole aspect of, first, the collection pond, or whatever it is, in terms of the implications to that, and how it's going to impact us in terms of the overall official community plan and the intent of that. So I think we need some information on that. And then also the aspect of the development cost charges for the lots that were already considered. And those were the 2 requests. Councillor Parslow?
I'd like to move that staff write a briefing note and present recommendations to council on this matter as soon as they're able to do the work.
Thank you. Seconded.
Yep.
Councillor Malkinson. Jim?
Through your worship, probably it'll be 2 reports, because there are aspects of the first request that I think have to be considered and closed. The second request, I'm not sure it's lawful. We're going to have to get some advice on that. The implementation of development cost charges is a highly legislated and regulated process that has its own grace periods built into it and all that sort of thing. So, but that report will be simply a reprise of whether you could or could not do that, so it's appropriate for the open. Regarding land acquisition, that might have to be enclosed.
Sure.
So probably 2 reports. But I wouldn't want anyone left with the impression that stormwater retention ponds are in the OCP simply as an amenity or a park feature. That large piece of property in the north central area of the community has been farmers' fields for many years, and those farmers' fields have absorbed water in runoff. They're now going to be finished properties. That stormwater has to go somewhere, and when developing that plan, By a large measure, the detention ponds are a less expensive option than what would otherwise be required, which is upgrading the storm water line that runs all the way from there to the golf course, which would be a multi-million-dollar project. So there, the conceptualization of the storm retention ponds in the OCP work and in the Harvest View Sunset Ridge plan were a win-win. They were an amenity, but also a far cheaper option for developers than upgrading the storm line.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, well,
Councillor Parsons?
my understanding is that these retention ponds are, I think the presenter talked about it, them being infrastructure.
Yes, that's correct.
And they're needed for the development, yeah.
Okay. So we'll have a report come back to us on that?
If you pass the motion, yep.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. The last item we had was Miss Susan Johnson was in regards to her parking issue. Councillor Malkinson?
Your Worship, I'm not sure that I'm the best to initiate voicing of opinions, but I think this is a very unfortunate example, but I would think for quite a while to come up with a solution of what could be done. The request that was made for us to pay the towing bill, I don't think would be very, well, it'd be setting a bad precedent, certainly. And I don't think there's, although my sympathies are with her, I'm just not sure what could realistically be done.
Not sure if there was a motion in there or not.
I suppose the sense of my words is to take no action.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Parsons, second?
No, sorry.
I need it. So I have a motion that we're going to take no action. Do I have a seconder for that
No,
one?
that's the reflection of my words. I'm just referencing that for discussion, Your Worship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I
Not moving anything, like I said.
I don't know if we have a motion, but I was thinking there were some points made here that I think I'd like to move that this staff, because there's questions raised about bylaw notification and so on, and I would really appreciate knowing what the notification components of the bylaw are, and I don't think I'm not prepared to make a decision on this, but I would like to move that we receive an advisory report from staff informing us of bylaws and the notification component before making any decisions on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll
Seconded by
second that.
Councillor McFadden. Discussion? Councillor McFadden?
I would look forward to a report from staff that suggests we should pay this. I think it's I think it's a one-off. I mean, other people are told, but not for 2 months, and I think it's an unfortunate one-off deal. I hope the staff will say to pay the money back.
Well,
hint, hint.
Councillor Parsons?
yes, I always concern myself around precedent. Policy is policy, bylaws and stuff, but I am just saying that as it was presented, my understanding was that the person intended to leave the vehicle in the parking space that she had to use, which is on 13th Street, for a 28-day period, which turned into 2 months. The snow removal, policy kicked in, and the vehicles were towed in accordance with that bylaw requiring the vehicles to be off the streets for snow removal. But I heard that the report was supposed to go to the police. Are supposed to be informed. They had no record of that. Secondly, I understood that then there's a point of notification to the owner. And I just don't know those things, and I'd like to just say before we make any decisions, we refresh our understanding of the bylaws and make an informed position. The same spirit Council just voted on as relates to the college. Let's get a fact base there before we make a decision. But I think we need to always remember that any decision you make, you are creating a precedent, and that makes it very interesting. Are you prepared to do this for others?
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Parslow. I'd like to have the rest of the information, because the other thing that came to my mind was on notification. The lady wasn't here for 2 months, so I'm not sure how they would notify her that her vehicle was about to be towed, or that she wouldn't be able to see the signs that were posted. So I would like to hear exactly the other side of the process before any decisions made.
Thank you. Jim?
Through your worship, I need to challenge the assumption this would be a one-off. In fact, we plow 13th Street.
That's right.
We remove snow 13th, 102nd, 103rd, 104th, 105th, 8th Street, 10th Street, or 9th Street, 10th Street, 11th Street, 12th Street, several times every winter. And there's always vehicles on them that have to be moved. And if your desire is to leave your vehicle there for a couple of months over the winter, it's going to get towed. So this wouldn't be a one-off at all. If we're going to pick up those charges, that would be hugely impactful. And these charges have been paid. This is a cash thing. We'd be taking money from taxpayers and giving it to Ms. Johnson, and you would need to believe that the taxpayers would wish you to take the money from their pockets and pay Ms. Johnson. Money does not materialize out of the air.
Thank you. Any further comments? So we're going to ask administration to come back with a report on the specifics of the bylaw and the situation. Councillor Malkinson?
It will likely be in the report, but I'm sure that staff could also speak to it right now about the notification going to the registered address from the motor vehicle registry. Is that is there?
So I don't know what happened there. I'm going to have to look into that. The normal process is, the normal thing is somebody comes out in the morning from their apartment and finds their vehicle gone and calls the RCMP assuming it's been stolen. So we do have a process where the tow companies provide every night a list to the RCMP of any vehicles they have towed. And that could be on our snow removal, it could be from the mall, it could be, virtually anywhere, by license plate number. And then you ask the license plate number, and they look at their list. Now, how long they retain that, I don't know. I don't know, for instance, if RCMP retain that for 2 months. I have no idea. I don't know how it gets entered on the computer. No idea about any of that. That's a different matter than the notification to an owner relative to the right of the tow company to eventually put that vehicle up for sale because it hasn't been claimed, and I don't know about any of that stuff as well. So I can give you all the technical detail you wish on that. I think, to Councillor Wilbur's point, it wouldn't have affected the situation here at all. You're gone for 2 months. Your vehicle's gone for 2 months. You discover it when you come back. That's also when you would have found the letter in your mailbox saying it was gone. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, we'll have an opportunity to grill Staff Sergeant Milo McDonald about this in a I can hardly wait.
Councillor Wilbur?
I just wanted to add too, just as Jim was talking, most of our apartment building complexes and stuff in town, you receive a designated parking spot, whether it be underground or outside. So I'm then wondering if perhaps the lady should have talked to her landlord about somebody being parked in her designated parking spot, or if that was an issue. So just some things that come to mind.
We'll be able to do it all. Understand it more fully as we receive the information from administration.
Thank you.
Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So that's it for mayor's business. Item 11, we have the consent calendar. Any items to be released?
I move the consent calendar, your worship.
Councillor Malkinson,
Sure.
Councillor Wilbur. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Strategic priorities.
Nothing new on the charge, your worship.
Question and answer period.
There's no one signed up yet?
Thank you. Committee of the Whole report. So, do we need to take a quick 5-minute break?
Yes, I need
Yes?
to get coffee.
I'm off today.
We'll take a quick 5-minute break. Call ourselves back to order. Once we get our recorder. Not moving forward without the recorder.
Then I had.
Everybody else can be gone, but not you.
I'm not starting without Tyra.
What less your work would be if we.
So our first Committee of the Whole reports, item 14. Our first report this morning is our Staff Sergeant. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well,
I feel like I studied the wrong chapter in the exam. I didn't know we were going to be discussing parking, so I was.
I was gonna say, did you get that license plate?
Nope. Yeah. So, hope everybody's doing well. The biggest piece of news that we have over the last little while is we had a project that has been ongoing for some period of time over the last few months that involved targeting one of our local organized crime groups, and we used a variety of techniques to do that, including an undercover operation. And so we took it down in 2 phases, and we did a series of search warrants, 6 or 7 of them in one night, as well as a takedown of the vehicle. And then a few weeks later, we ended up arresting a whole bunch of people that had sold cocaine and other drugs to our undercover operators that we had up here. So we have a fairly significant portion of that drug dealing group that's going to be heading to Prince George to spend a summer down there. And it's been an unqualified success. It's been pretty good. And I think it makes a big difference. My perspective is that those types of operations remove the sorts of people that are responsible for violent and spectacular crimes that sometimes happen. And if they're in Prince George in jail, they don't have the capacity to be able to do that. So that's the approach we take in it. And so we try to do one once a year, or at the most once every couple of years, and it's been a successful approach to keeping things to a dull roar. So yeah, so that's that story. And I guess the other news is I've accepted, I think many of you know this already, but I've accepted a position in Prince George, and so I'll be leaving. Regretfully, I'll be leaving because I've actually really enjoyed this job, and I still enjoy it every day. But we are going to be heading to Prince George for another challenge in Prince George, and there'll be a replacement, competition for my replacement, I guess, and we'll see how that process goes.
And I see you have 2 long-term members as well leaving.
Yeah, two other members leaving, and actually I was just on the phone with staffing this morning, and they're sending another recruit our way. So it's the usual cycle. We've actually lost fewer people in the last few transfer cycles. We've been able to retain quite a bit of our seniority, and it's good because I mean we do invest quite a bit of money in training, and we do make a lot of effort to get people a full job skill set, and it's tremendously beneficial if we can hang on to them for even 2 or 3 more years. You know, that's tremendously beneficial to the community to be able to keep that experience. But the nature of the organization is that people who accumulate a high level of skill are sort of sought after, and they end up in different parts of the world, and we've been quite successful, and as a result of that, our people are in demand, and so that's the nature of what we're doing.
So first, I just want to say congratulations, obviously, on your move to Prince George onto bigger and better, and certainly their gain is our community's loss, in my opinion, in terms of the value you brought to our community and to that detachment. And the feedback I've heard from all of the members unanimously is the leadership that you've brought to that organization has been respected and appreciated, and it's going to be missed.
Thanks very much. No, have a simpler. I just sort of look at it as being a bus driver and taking the team to games. We just win all the games, but I'm the bus driver. That's good. It's been a pretty good experience. Yeah.
Any questions for Staff Sergeant? So,
Good job, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our fire chief. Good morning, chief.
Good morning. Good spring morning, I guess. Walk around the neighborhood yesterday looking at some of the lawns, still have a couple of feet of snow and
Yeah.
you're like, oh man, this is depressing. But on a happy note, good morning. We're all here. We're on the right side of the green grass, so.
Snow.
So you have the report on in front of you. There's nothing unusual. It was a fairly slow month for major incidents, so we didn't get anything big last month, so that was a good thing. We had, just on another note, we attended the trade fair. We had 11 firefighters that staffed the booth for, I guess, 2 full days, so it was really good. We typically have about 400 young visitors to our booths to get fire hats and fire safety paraphernalia, so that was good. So my hat's off to those 11 firefighters that took time out of their busy days to do that. The other note too is that firefighters are now planning for and getting ready for their annual Texas Hold'em poker tournament, and that usually raises quite a bit of money for the BC Professional Firefighters Association. So it's a month early this year, so if you're our poker player, take note of that, and May 1st. Other than that?
Thank you, chief. Any questions? Councillor McFadden?
Hub is building the truck in Abbotsford, are they? Is that?
It's in Abbotsford, yeah. It's, I talked to them probably about 3 weeks ago and asked them how it's going, and they're scrambling because they wanna build the truck and then show it off at the Fire Chiefs Convention and then deliver it, but they're scrambling to get it done by that time, which is the end of May. But it's still scheduled for May, end of May, but we won't take delivery till June.
Whatever happened to the La France Fire Company? Are they gone the way of the dodo?
La France?
Yeah, you remember them?
Yeah, they're still around. They're not as prominent as they were before. They're having some financial difficulties.
Yeah, it's a very competitive business with fire truck building.
They've been around forever.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I have a question around burn permits. When is the usual time of the year when you have to, not grant any burn permits? I know it's very seasonal, but I mean, what is the back of my mind, Shorty, is that, is there a window right after the breakup here where people can burn garbage, or let's say naturally occurring product on the property? I know that sort of, I'm not talking about plywood, but let's say some fallen branches, without a permit, or do you always require a permit? And when do permits usually not get granted?
Okay. So in the spring of the year and the fall of every year for 2 weeks, we have what we call a free burn period. So you can burn, typically that's when people are cleaning up their yards, either in the spring, cleaning up the winter mess, or in the fall, getting ready for the winter. And so they're allowed to burn their yard debris. The rules are in the burning is you can only burn items that are indigenous to the property.
Yeah.
We listed it that way because people were starting to burn construction waste.
Yeah.
And that the cost of doing business is when you're building something is you gotta haul that stuff away.
Yeah.
So with that 2 week period, and it's coming up here in May, it's usually in May and October of each year. So they still have to get a burn permit, excuse me, but they don't pay for it.
Okay.
And the reason why they get a burn permit, because there's still some rules and regulations around burning. So when we give them the burn permit, it has that list of rules and regulations on there, so they know how much they can burn, what they can burn, when they can burn, but they just don't pay for it.
I see.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, you did, absolutely. So I still have to have like a tanker truck available?
In you're out in a rural area, I don't know if you have to have a tanker truck.
I'm being facetious.
Yeah. But I'm sure there's lots of people around that can rent one to you. You know, local business.
Any further questions for Chief? Thanks very much this morning. We'll see you at lunchtime.
Okay.
Next up, we have our Director of Corporate Administration.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There's a couple of things that I didn't include in my report that I just want to let you know. Ads have been placed for the Residential Development Committee, and there's a deadline of May 7th for that, and then after that time, we'll go through and make sure that we have all the different areas covered, and then bring that to council for approval for that committee. The communication plan, we will have a report coming to council soon on that. Once we have our meeting this week, we'll finalize our plan and make sure that it's in line with what you think is the way we should be moving. And just want to mention the local area service bylaws. It was quite a long process that Shelley and I went through to make sure that we were working in accordance with the community charter. It was quite interesting, and I think we were able to put on presentations through the province now for anybody else who would, any other community that wants to know how to do a local area service. We're
only on your days off.
Experts now. But yeah, only other thing is we have a Relay for Life team, the city does. And if anybody wants to join up, it's on June 14th. And I think Lindsay is our captain, so if you want to just check with her. That's all I have.
Councillor Wilbur?
I just want to say if they don't want to join the team, they can financially support our team.
Yes.
We really need some help.
Financial support is great.
Councillor Parslow?
Just under the heading, determine whether to have an economic development strategy for the city.
Yes.
You say that the workshop is scheduled for June the 24th, at a cost of 5,000. Is that inclusive of the hotel and travel, or is that the fee?
Inclusive.
That's due.
Yeah, everything.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, did you have a question?
No, I was going to suggest you might want to suggest to Councillor McFadden you stop making eyes at me.
Oh, I can't do that. Powers of the mayor only
he's
so far.
distracted me.
He just put drops in his eyes. Give him a break.
As I was asked, though, he was distracting me. It's called harassment in some places.
Thank you, Brenda. Item 14.4 is we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer.
Good morning. So I'll just highlight the strategic priorities, council strategic priorities. Fiscal gap challenge is just on hold until all the other business of the city is done before that, like the budget and the financial statements, and have been working on Sure Water for May 8th. Then there's some projects that are just ongoing. We've reported out basically the actual to budget if anybody has any questions on the Calvin Crook Art Center or the sewer trunk line. So the loan authorization was approved on the sewer trunk line, which is great because we're starting to go into more of the reserve than we had budgeted. So that'll even out as that comes through. On the operational strategies, most of those are on hold as well, just as we get through. It's like we're doing this, but we're not doing that, but there's a lot of work ongoing that is done incrementally, but we're just about done the budget, and we did actually have a meeting with the auditor last week, and so those are just in the final stages of getting that to you by May 12th. Just on the debt management that Brenda spoke about, the local area service projects was a really big project that was not on schedule, but it's a really indicative item in that it's just one of the things that we do every year with construction on local area service projects. But what we found when we did it was that we were using old legislation. So to go back and update all the legislative requirements and making sure that were meeting everything in the charter, took a lot of time, but it was really challenging and it was really interesting. And now, I think, because when we did speak to legal on it, there's a lot of requests from other municipalities on local area service projects. So we went through the challenge so that we can help everybody else out on it too, but I think we got it. Other than that, I'm looking forward to budget consultation tomorrow, and if anybody wants anything discussed or what have you, let me know before tomorrow. We've updated our budget brochure. We'll bring forward some 5-year information on the construction projects, but basically it's just the final opportunity for the public to come out and talk to you one-on-one or discuss any other issues that they feel is important. And financial reporting requirements for the next 3 months, you get an idea of everything that's on the plate, and it's just business as usual, so it'll get done. One thing that is not in the report, but I think you might find interesting is, so development cost charges started January 1st of this year, and the construction season, just started a little while ago. So our first DCC that the city received was March 10th, and we've got it reported to April 25th. So far, we've received just about $93,000, which is pretty significant just for 2 months. So that basically gets put into a reserve and stays that way until it is brought forward on specific projects. So that was one thing, and then also just to report out on reclaim facility sales. To the first quarter were $75,000 bulk sales, and that compares to about 113 last year. So they're a little bit down, but it could be due to spring breakup, that kind of thing. So anyway, that's all I got for you.
Thank you, Shelley. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, thank you, Shelley. I referred, going back to the Calvin Crutch Centre, just the borrowing, is that a 20-year dementia?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to, as you can well imagine, quite a few people, almost every time they see me, talk about this project to me. I'm trying to understand where some of the figures they're using are coming from. And I'm just occurred to me as I was reading this report, I'm just wondering whether they get a much higher figure, right, of the actual cost of this project. They're now claiming the actual cost will be over 20 million. And I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm wondering if the borrowing of 3,447,000, if they're adding the principal and interest, the servicing of that to that cost. Because the cost of borrowing, $3.5 million over a 20-year period would probably be an additional, $1 million?
Through your worship, but I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay.
But you know what I would recommend is that when you do get people that have a different number than what the budget is, it's 17.6 million, right? And we haven't spent it all to date. And some people look at things differently, but have them call me and I can talk to them. But they may be speaking about the purchase of the building. That was $295,000. So that's not in this. This is the reconstruction of the Calvin Crook Art Center. But we had that happen with the multiplex as well, where different people are throwing out different numbers, and all we can do is basically put it back to them that this is what the budget is. If you've got a different number, where did you get it? Why don't you talk to somebody at City Hall, and then we can have that exchange so that...
But I'm just saying the cost of borrowing, is that not included in the project?
Well, it's different, right? So this is funding the project, specifically the construction of it, right? And then we actually have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so they might say, the borrowing in 1 year of 3.9, you can't use that if you're going to be using the 20-year principal and interest, but they may be adding, you know, I can't comment on what they're thinking.
No, I'm just trying to, it just occurred to me
Understand
that
where
might
they-
be, yeah.
Where they come from. It
Because-
could be many things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because any time you borrow money, you're paying interest over a 20-year period, which
Absolutely.
is a significant amount of money, as
Absolutely.
we talked about with the trunk sewer line.
Sure, sure.
So maybe that's, it just occurred to me,
Could be the added interest
because
cost.
some people do
Um,
believe you got to really
Build that in.
build it, everything, because that's what it's costing. Can I ask us one other question on the same topic? The gaming funds, 3,950,000 has been budgeted from gaming funds. That must be many years of gaming funds, right?
Yes.
So what happened there to accumulate that? Was it just accumulating and not being used for something else? And
Well, basically, the way the budget works is, you know, each year we do the funding for the different construction projects or the operating budgets. And you have to report out on gaming funds. So you have to be specific as to what it is spent on.
yeah.
So each year, if there was money available, an allocation was actually requested from council to say it's going specifically to the Calvin Crook Arts Center. So we've had, I think it was 2 or 3 years on that. So that's what that is.
Yeah.
Because this is a multi-year project.
Yeah.
We had those allocations.
Sure.
And we have the gaming money in a separate account. So then checks are written on that account to track it. And it's all about tracking, allocation, that kind of thing. But this project started in 2009.
Yeah.
So we're going on 5 years. So yes, it is multi-year allocation.
Approximately how much do we get on an annual basis at gaming? 600 and something?
It's closer to about 800.
800?
But if you've been watching the news, they expect, there was something I seen recently that it's starting to flatline. Like we've had steady growth over the last little bit, and they're looking for new ways to generate that growth again. But I expect it'll probably flatline at that unless they do something significant. So.
Sure.
Thank you, Shelley. Any further questions? Thank you. Next up, we have 14.5. We have the report from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning. A couple of quick things in the report. If you look at the building stats, holy cow, that's all I got to say about that. Compared to last year at this time, we are $14 million ahead. So we've run about $17 million in permits compared to $3 million last year at this time. So as you can see with the listing of what was going on, a number of people were perhaps anticipating a change, and we're getting some permits in ahead of time. And you can see duplex with suites were fairly popular. So, but again, all good. We'll see if that trend continues throughout the summer, or if this was just, like I said, everybody trying to get in early. So, but things are very busy on that front. Couple updates on some strategic priorities. As Shelley touched on, we've got the borrowing now approved, so we can officially award the contract to Timbro for the construction of the sewer line. So we'll be in contact with them today and get things moving on that. Surewater Phase 2, we're approaching that May 8th. There'll be newsletters going out in the mail this week. There's been some news releases, some posts on Facebook and others. We're trying to reach out again, just like we did last time, and get everybody's attention, and hopefully we'll get a good turnout to that and get some good feedback. So some of the operational departmental strategies that we have within our own area of the world is Loran Reservoir should be completed probably by the end of May, just waiting for it to warm up so they can finish off a few things that required the water to, or the warmer weather, some landscaping and whatnot. So that, probably by the end of May, that should be done. The booster was awarded to Hagee, and that will get going. Water line, that will tie all that in, up in that area, will be going this summer as well. Number of significant projects. Very, very busy on the capital front. Plus, you saw the LASs that went through for first 3 readings today, so that we'll be following up with mailouts and on those projects. We've got leftover paving projects that they'll be starting, last I heard, around May long weekend. We should be doing 102nd Avenue downtown, so that will start. It's gonna be a busy summer. So hopefully we get some decent weather for construction, because we've got lots to do, so. Any questions?
Councillor McFadden.
Thank you, Kevin. The sewer line will come down 13th. I thought, not 17th, 13th.
That's correct. So it basically starts right at 15th and 97th Avenue, just by the old organic bakery, right?
Yeah,
That
okay.
intersection. It will come down 97th to the east, to 13th, and then we'll come down into the backside of that railway property, and then parallel the railway all the way out essentially to First Street and Belsam Auto Recyclers, that area, and then head south
Under
towards
the highway
Lagoons.
and into the system. eh?
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
sounds easy anyways.
Councillor Parsons?
Lickety split.
Yeah, I don't have a question, but in discussion just ahead of the council meeting, I talked about the environment permit that
Air Liquide.
Air Liquide was putting forward. And so I had a conversation with Matthew, so I won't ask Kevin to see if he knows this. But it's interesting that I asked Kevin, Matthew, the tons of carbon dioxide equivalent loading from the corporation of the city of Dawson Creek in a year is 3,100 tons. The city as a whole is 50,000 tons, so the corporation's contribution is about 6%. So when I calculated the 5 natural gas electrical generating plants that are going into Air Liquide, it is just 0.0022% addition in
Of the community?
of the communities, very minor. Yeah. So I thought I'd share that.
Thank you.
I think there was a question around the air quality monitoring as well.
Oh yes, there was. Matthew didn't know too much about that or at his fingertips. So, but we do have air quality monitoring for respirable particulate matter at 2 locations, Jim said.
Yes, Frank Ross and South Peace, I believe, is the 2 schools that we have.
Yeah,
up on
and
the
you
road.
know the tons of.
I don't know, but it's a partnership with the Ministry of Environment, and essentially how that worked is that they provided all the equipment, the install, and all they asked is that we would go, I think it's every 8 days, collect the cartridges, and then basically just send them to them, and they do the testing. So that's really our role.
They don't report back to us.
We did get a report about a year ago, might even have been a bit longer, and it was just raw data at that point. We have not seen a compiled finished report, and so we're going to look into that. We're still continuing to gather and send those cartridges in for their testing, but we haven't been privy to all the results. So we'll look into that, and if I can get that, then obviously I bring that forward to council.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
Anything further? Street cleaning started, and they started in April, and they seem to be getting out and around the community. I see they're even into some the residential already, so it's good.
Yeah, we're running double shifts, so we two sweepers in the morning, 2 sweepers in the evening, and we got through the mains fairly quick, and now we're starting to branch out into some of the residential areas. And then we'll have to go back and do it again, because as people, timing of getting some of the material off lawns, some people have it off, some people won't have it off for a while yet, so it'll be a bit of a process. Typically, it takes us a better part of 6 weeks to get through that spring cleanup. I'd love to have it done in about a week, but it just doesn't happen that fast. So it's, we spend the better part of 4 or 5 months putting it down. I guess it takes a little bit of time to get back up. So.
And Kevin, the last one for me is I've had a little bit of feedback, and obviously December was a killer month for us with our snow removal and hired equipment, and I've had some feedback from residents about damage to their lawns in front of their, along the easements and stuff, and I know we have a process in place that people
So
can
certainly
notify us.
anybody that might have some damage to a lawn or maybe a fence or a tree, or if something happened during that process, they can get hold of Public Works. We've got a list going there, and as summer staff come on here and it warms up and dries up, we'll be sending them out with topsoil and various things to try and touch that up. And yeah, it was probably, this year would probably be a little bit worse than maybe years past, just due to the amount of snow we had.
Sure.
And hired equipment tends to be a little rougher on things just simply because they're not as familiar with the areas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Sure. Councillor Parslow?
The mayor of Fort St. John was talking about a new piece of equipment that the city of Fort St. John had acquired that would, I'm not going to say, well, maybe the word revolutionize is a bit overstepping it, but would really increase the city's capacity to deal with pothole issues. Are you aware what they bought? And if not, could you check
I can certainly find out. I'm not aware exactly of the piece of equipment they bought, although I was up in Fort St. John a week ago, and I'll just leave it at that.
They certainly, if we think we have pothole problems, they've got caverns there.
I mean, they got some challenges for sure, and I just don't know what they bought for equipment, and we can find out.
No, I just wondered, because she seemed to be quite ecstatic about it, and I just wondered, hey, what is it that they've got? Is it something, because potholes are an issue in every northern community.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And whilst I think their pothole situation is disgusting, and ours is not what we'd want.
There was an asphalt plant or something.
They bought a hot asphalt
It's a hot
recycler.
Yeah.
They bought a hot asphalt recycler, and so they don't have to wait for the paving plants. They can, and
you guys know more than
they pick up their asphalt, recycle it, and use it for their potholes. And
So if they've got it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, on that note, typically we have to wait till May long weekend before hot mix is available in the area. They don't flash up. We use cold mix, and we've also got a machine that will put rock and bitumen into the hole and do that as well. So, but most times, pothole repairs are temporary in nature. You fix them, and you're usually back to that same one until you can get into May and actually maybe deal with it on a more permanent basis. That's quite often the case. So maybe there's something a little more advantage.
Councillor Wilbur?
I was just gonna say, yeah, they were showing it off, but shortly afterwards they got 6 inches of snow. So I mean, I don't think we're too bad off waiting till May.
Any further questions for Kevin? Thanks, Kevin.
You bet.
Next up, 14.5, we have the Director of Community Services here to announce make the big announcement that the IIHF World Under 18 Women's World Championships is being announced this afternoon.
So why are you here then?
I'm just waiting for him to give that announcement.
Well, that would be revolutionizing something that I don't know.
He'd have a quicker bounce in his step.
Yeah, you'd see me smiling a little easier. We're still in the process of waiting. Last week we did have some additional questions that we felt that we had addressed. They just needed it in writing in regards to our site visit, and we're waiting anxiously as you all are. I would say I've probably had a few sleepless nights over it, but we remain overly optimistic that.
You seem to be losing weight over this issue.
Just cut my hair. It looks
Oh, that's the difference.
That's the new cut hair. So Jim told me that we have a lunch at 12 o'clock, and so we won't be long. You're either good at the end, or we can answer questions over next door as well. The report outlines a number of activities, and there were a couple keynotes there that the delegation this morning. It's a very important transition time as Kevin and Sean are cleaning up. Our community services group is involved in the Pitch In Canada Week and the Seniors Yard Waste and Community Cleanup Day, and that was highlighted this morning in delegation. Can't emphasize enough that if we can get some more groups out there to help us out, it's amazing what that one day does for cleanup around the city and the event as a city as a whole. It's a great event overall. A number of events highlighted as we go through some statistical data at the pool was very positive. Licensed childcare has been extremely busy, and now we're into the transition of sport. Volleyball leagues it always amazes me how many people actually do play volleyball and continue to grow there. And our transition into our parks program with Kevin, it's a very busy time. There was some highlighted work that you'll see David Siemens out right now, and I do have some information. Councillor Parslow had asked about some hazard tree evaluations. I've got that package for Councillor if anyone else is interested in that. It was probably even a little enlightening to myself as a manager sometimes how much work David does get done. And it's quite a process that we go through and what's highlighted in that package, and that every area gets looked at and how it goes through. So I've got that package of information as well for the councillor. And just wanted to come back and highlight a little bit around the sustainability side. Matt had given his presentation this morning. Matt was just wrapping up on his 2 years of working with us, and professionally, not a surprise that he's moving on, and got some great valued information that he's shared with us over the 2 years. We did complete our interviews last week and have a very solid candidate in town today and tomorrow to work with Matthew and a young family, and very impressed with the area, and hopefully we can get him. He brings a wealth of experience, both he was a civil engineer originally, worked with municipality, has experience in the OCP planning side, and then decided to flip over into energy management. So we're hoping that we can bring Peter and welcome into our community. So that's an important part, and Matt has done, I think, a great job. And interesting talking to Peter. As soon as they saw Matt's vacancy, there were a number of current candidates in the energy field that saw Dawson Creek as a very progressive community, and it was an easy sell to get some qualified candidates. Finally, around the strategical planning side, the department strategy for council, obviously the Calvin Crook and Duncan is working through that, and hopefully that will be completed in the near future. Operational strategies within the department, as well as Shelley had alluded to, it's a very busy time in transition. The IHHF hockey tournament, I think it was pretty much wrapped up and just waiting now to see. The cemetery expansion phase is directed with the capital approvals, and that work will be completed when some of those processes are approved. Crescent View Park, I think we're just waiting for some warmer weather to pick a date here to share that with the neighborhood, and we talked about that a little bit before. And two that I won't allude on too much, but if council has any questions on, the ice usage is going to be a critical movement forward. Duncan and staff are at the Parks and Recreation, and we're digging up some very good supporting information on how we go about this review. It's very critical. We've met with the user groups, and we'll be bringing information to council as we move forward with that project. And just waiting for, I think, the consultant working with us on the pool review is back, and we left that in April 3rd. We had a very good meeting with staff, and I hope to roll that out at the next council meeting on exactly where we're going with that in a little more detail. Take probably about 10 minutes to update council on that. So any questions, Your Worship?
Thank you, Barry. Anything, Councillor McFadden?
Just when do you expect them to announce the successful bid for the under 18?
As late as the AGM, which is end of May. Where a bit of a backup came, I'm not sure if people knew, but Bob Nicholson, our president of Hockey Canada, resigned a couple weeks back, and Bob was on that committee. So Scott Smith, the vice president, I think he's vice president of operations, is been taking over that portfolio. So we're hoping, as they said, as early as the end of April and as late as the end of May.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anything further? Barry, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Item 15, media question period. Thank you. Nice to see you guys. We have no reason to recess to close because we're going to budget after lunch. So motion to adjourn. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Malkinson, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, everyone. Let's have our regular budget meeting, budget meeting of council on April 14th, 2014. Moved by Councillor McFadden, seconded by Councillor Wilbur. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? Come on.
Sue's opposed?
No.
Carried.
I'm just
I got quite a look there.
Was it?
Item 3.1, we have a report from the Chief Financial Officer in our 2014 Financial Plan Bylaw.
Do we have?
Moved by Councillor Wilbur, seconded by Councillor Malkinson. Discussion. We want to get an overview from our Chief Financial Officer.
Through your worship,
Sure.
so the bylaws just presented to you. There's no change from the last meeting we had. We received the tax rates from the other taxing authorities that could be put in earlier than anticipated, so if you choose to give it first 3 readings, we can go to the public consultation tomorrow. And then either adopt it May 12th, or if you prefer to have a special meeting, then it becomes law when it's adopted and everybody can move forward with their projects, so it's up to you. But nothing new since I last reported out to you.
I think it's nice to take it to the meeting tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good information. We bring it forward tomorrow night, and then would you prefer to have a special meeting, or do you want to just leave it for our May meeting for the fine?
May 12th?
I would think doesn't seem to be much debate amongst council about it, so why not May the 12th?
Yeah. Okay.
So regular meeting.
Yep. So is there any questions, comments? Yes.
The only
Sean?
other question that I had for you is if you want the format for tomorrow night the same as previous years, where the mayor speaks, or you wanted it changed up, or do you just want an open forum? Do you want me to say something? How do you see that rolling out? Does anybody have any opinion on it?
Well, if it's the crowd we had last time, like,
Just keep it informal?
yeah, I think. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of outshone attendance.
I think we
All
have
right,
the
we'll
10
just play it by
same
ear
10
then.
people.
I guess, be prepared if there's a lot of people, but if there's not, play it by ear.
So should we set the structure then the same for tomorrow night, that Shelley will be there to give a high-level overview, and
I can.
then we'll answer any questions from there? That work? Does that work
Yep.
for everybody?
Works.
Yeah? Okay.
Right.
Works for me. So any further conversation, discussion, any information on the report? Tax rates? You're good to go? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you.
Any items for discussion? Jim?
One thing that we'd like to point out is the rates that you've now given 3 readings to have a residential to commercial ratio of 2.66 to 1. However, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation consistently gets that wrong in their report because they fail to allow for the flat tax. But just in case you get that question, regardless of what shows up in that report, our ratio is actually 2.66 to 1.
Okay. Any other items?
Well, just a question to Jim, has that organization made any have a position about what is a good ratio, what's fair, I mean, 0 to 0, I suppose. but-
Yes, the Canadian not Canadian Taxpayer Federation, Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that the maximum ratio should be 2 to 1. Most observers say that's too low and 3's too high, and it should be somewhere in between. But they're a lobby group for business, of course.
Sure.
They propose lower rates for business.
Fair enough.
Okay. So, no other items for discussion? Short and sweet. Motion to adjourn. Kenny, Councillor Malkinson, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thanks very much. I appreciate your worship and council, the opportunity to come back and explain a little more about some of the work we've been doing in the watershed. I do also want to express my appreciation of being and acting in the role as watershed steward for those 3 years, 2000 to 13, and now in the support role to help build a foundation for more work with the new technicians. So this is a chance to sort of get a sense of where we're at and hopefully where we can go. We were talking before about just a weird question about the viability of the system and how do we actually make some understanding of that. And it has a lot to do obviously with understanding the hydrology, what are the flows like and what's the quality like? What are the partnerships like with the agencies? And how is the level of communication and helping to make decisions so that you're a real partner with the province? So that's kind of the different pieces to it. Maybe I'll just sort of jump ahead to, you're familiar with a lot of the background, but this idea of coming up with this integrated system, what's coming in, what do we do with it as it obviously processes through the system? Question was just asked here about how effective are the conservation measures? What are we saving as we go through the conservation process? And then eventually, obviously we deal with things within the system itself in Dawson. Stormwater management, high flows, and the water conservation piece. So as we get all these things working together and we all understand, you know, where the gaps are and where we need other support, then we really have a pretty solid foundation. And I feel really encouraged about how things have been developing. Well, obviously we got to look at what other folks are doing. Here's a picture of the industry initiative in Farmington. I was just out with Tourmaline last Friday in the watershed. They've done a major amount of activity. And so I put the question to them, just exactly what is, you know, LNG expansion looking like, potentially impacts in terms of development in the watershed. And they often will say, well, obviously there's going to be further demand. A lot of what their interests and they see is happening further west. So the different companies will have different strategies with related to gas development. And that comes back to the question about potentially how much water is being captured privately, for example. So those are the kind of questions we want to ask. Obviously, we're looking at the different trends that are happening with the flows and what's happening again this year. We had a little contest at the trade show and asking people to guess when they think the peak might be, and a few people are guessing early. I'm guessing early. And it's one of those things that's really valuable to know, because we have to ask ourselves if the system is draining early, as we say, because of just the way the snow melt happened earlier. You know, where do we need to anticipate where demand may be as well as supply? And the better we have gauging in the system upstream, the better you will have an ability to actually talk to government earlier in the process. So you're not waiting just to see what's happening at the where. You're actually being able to say, we can know quite a bit in advance.
Is it okay just to take questions as they...
Sure.
Because this peak water flow is the time to capture water.
Yes.
You know, we talked about above ground, and we've also talked about aquifer. Are you going to talk further on, or maybe now is the time?
Anytime.
What would be some of the key activities that council might want to consider if we want to explore the potential for an aquifer? What pieces of work would need to be done?
Okay.
Or are you leaving that in some report?
Well, no, it's, we've mentioned it. It's, you know, I've got a report that goes with this. The annual report's been published. The 2001 CALA report, they did a study and they looked at all the drill all the wells in the area of the south piece. They look at the production of those wells. In the last couple of years, the government took on a major groundwater study in the area. And we also know that private companies have developed water downstream of Eris. So it's a matter of understanding who's been drilling, what's the level of production coming from the wells. And the focus is on that valley itself, the Cascade. Because there's what's called a paleo valley, an old valley, under basically an old channel. And their observations at that point, going back to 2001, is that there potentially is supplementary water that could be tapped in to support supply. Now, the only way you can actually ascertain is to drill, a well closer and track it and look at the viability, look at the quality. So that piece of work, we discussed last year about potentially drilling. It's a monitoring well. It's about really just understanding what's happening in the groundwater system. So that would be the piece of work.
But what about an aquifer that we pump this peat flow into?
Okay, you were referring there to groundwater storage and recovery. And it is being done in Parksville. They've got a project now. Government is very cautious about that because you can pull the water out, push it back down, but you have to chlorinate it before you put it back down. It's just the requirement of the system. And the question is, if we start to do a lot of that kind of thing, you do it, others start industry initiatives, and so they've cautioned that, discussion. They want to kind of see how it's happening in Parksville. And you also have to have the right kind of formations to actually, it's basically a pocket. So as part of this work, just again, going back to just understanding what you have in the area, there's what's called airborne electromagnetic surveys. So it's basically like a scan, like an X-ray of the Earth from high level. And government now is in partnership with Geoscience BC, who we partnered with the university, is proceeding with that for the area. They want to know more about those aquifers.
For the piece area?
For the piece. So drilling, understanding what you've got just for monitoring, good to know how there's a relationship directly to the river, and then being in partnership with government to actually understand that piece. So we do know, again, I go back to 2012, the driest point on the year, and there was zero flow being recorded down in Kiskatno. But that's at the Curve River Bridge. That's where the station is. We had still a level of flow coming in down the river through that whole period of time. Now we augment it as well on top of that through the Bear Hole. So you've got wetlands and all, you've got that function still contributing. And that's the kind of thing that you really need to know for long-term management. You got to look at those extremes and then say, how are you managing it? How are you capturing that water? And potentially with more gauging upstream, you might be able to say, well, our conservation measures can kick in. Perhaps it might be a little bit different and their license isn't directly tied to Kiskatna and the lower Kiskatna. So those are the kind of things that you can do over time to develop your watershed management capability. So, are there other slides? Or I think there was some interest about, we talked about the other, potentially in the system, I mean, you've got Bear Hole Lake. We've got a whole study going on with respect to Bear Hole, working with Kerwood Lytle and Peace Country Technical to evaluate that reservoir. There is potential to look at other, storage in the system. It's just another piece of the work that we could do to say what else is out there that we could look at. I've offered that we could just do some of that work this year if there was interest. So these are the pieces that are certainly all part of the system. And notwithstanding our assessments, you start to get a good foundation about, let's look 20 and 30 years and 40 and 50 years and see what's happening, climate change and all these projections, and ask ourselves the question. And when we look back at the flows, again, you go back to what you can allocate or what you've been licensed to do, that red line. Generally what you're already doing, which is shown in the graph. Project into the future and say that from our standpoint, are we going to be safe in our supply?
You don't have listed there recycling of water. I say
Recycling of-
in the previous slide, I think it was, oh no, maybe, no, you had some, talking about augmentation.
Oh, yes.
Go the other way.
Okay. Sorry, trying to get this thing working here.
No, did you go the wrong way?
Okay.
There, water supply enhancement options to consider. You don't have recycling.
Well, I put conservation, I kind of tried to capture
Well,
it there.
recycle, would that include the loop from the Shell water plant?
Yeah, if that's an area that, you know, it's being done in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of think that's has such great potential. You know, like a sort of statements like for every 100 litres we suck out of Piscataway, we could return about 75 litres to the water treatment plant through that Shell, with a pipeline to the from that Shell plant to the water treatment.
So that would, again, it goes back to the
With the
standard.
additional, you know, some adjustments to the water treatment plant for farms.
Say that again, Charlie, for every 100?
For every 100 litres of water that we would suck out of the Kiskatna, there is the potential to return 75 litres after it's gone through the Shell water treatment plant, through a pipeline back to the
treatment
plant. The
Yeah.
treatment plant would have to have some adjustments. But I see that as a great potential because, you know, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I talked to so many people, it must be yourself or Jim or Kevin or somebody, said like Las Vegas is doing that right now, Los Angeles. Is the Campbell River doing it, or?
There's no jurisdiction in BC doing it.
Okay.
It's mostly American jurisdictions or U.S. jurisdictions in North America. It's widespread technology in the rest of the world.
Okay.
But as I sent you all media story on it, it's not necessarily easily accepted by the citizens because that water hasn't just been through the treatment plant, it's been through human beings before it gets to the recycling plant. And that's sometimes considered a barrier. But the important thing about it, Reg, Kevin, and I talk about all this all the time. When you have a water system that isn't as resilient to drought as you wish it would be, all of these innovations come forward. Necessity is truly the mother of invention, and the places that are currently using that technology are all very arid places that are very susceptible to drought. We haven't begun to use all of the techniques that have been identified as potential drought resilience measures. But we are confident that there are many of them. The community tends to see our water issue as a supply issue, but in fact it's a demand issue. We know a great deal about the supply. We know a great deal about ways in which we can make the supply more secure, but we don't know what our population is going to be in 20 years or how many liters per capita they're going to use. If we knew the answers to those, we could match these two equations up much better than we do, but the proponents are of our unknowns because of all the work we've been doing. We have far more unknowns on the demand side than on the supply side. You're seeing this presentation, you've seen many others. We're working constantly on gaining better knowledge and better certainty around supply. But ask all 12,000 residents for the population 20 years from now, you'll get 12,000 different answers. And each one is as correct as the other.
I heard yesterday at a gathering that the city of Fort St. John's population is going to grow to 100,000 within the next 20 years. And I just said, I'm on air, I'll tell them. Is it also true though, Jim, you talked about demand? I think I've heard this as well, that the number of litres per person consumed in the city is higher than the national average? Is that?
It is, but that's because of the industry usage.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
If we back out industry usage, we are, we look relatively normal in context of our country. Our country is profligate compared to other countries. So if you take a worldwide average, we've been blessed with an abundance of water, and we treat it as though it was not a precious resource, which is the case, but actually abundant. And so Canadians don't stand up very well in the world in terms of water conservation, but Dawson Creek residents stand up well compared to BC or the rest of Canada.
So added to that is the whole question, and the province is putting now out about pricing. So they're doing a reform on the pricing. They're looking at the pricing that they haven't had anything tied to the actual supply and demand in the sectors that are of interest. So they are reviewing that. There's a price that you pay for your water license per volume, and so that goes right through the whole system too, right? And all of this has to be put together and understood. There's all these pieces of supply and demand management in the watershed. I think there was some questions reflecting on this. I had this this image up here, and this is of course 2011 data, and there was only in this graph showing roughly 76,000 cubic meters of water licensed through Section 8 permits, but by 2012 and 13. That was multiples of 6 million.
Yeah, you showed us that in a subsequent slide.
Yeah, and we can get caught on this.
Which is, I mean, it's an important, very important piece. Reg was speed talking at the last, and so not a lot of time was spent on that. But understand what it means. Industry is already permitted. I wouldn't say licensed because they're two different things, but they're permitted to take twice as much raw water out of the Kiskadnaw as the city of Dawson Creek, which is stands well to support your decision that we really won't give them any more of our precious allocation. They have more than double our allocation for their own uses. They don't really need water from us. They're already licensed for twice as much as us out of our own source.
Yeah.
It would be double dipping. That's the whole concern that the province has around the whole thing is if industry draws their own allocations and they draw from our allocation, it's impossible to sort out then how much water they're actually using.
Where do you, yeah, absolutely, but where do you get that from this graph, Jim?
And it's not, we had
It's
a
not, it's
subsequent-
another one.
There's a subsequent
Subsequent,
slide.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't make it into.
No, that's fine, no.
We-
I
we-
remember this, it's a very important one. Absolutely.
So we can produce, and the other uses don't change significantly because Ducks Unlimited has a continuous license. Your license doesn't change. Irrigation licenses, until you get another potentially big demand. But also important here is that we're just starting to get an understanding of how much is being drawn from groundwater sources. And that's now just being reported. And we also don't know the private water capture. So when industry comes in with a project in the Kiskadnaw, they'll typically develop a well site, multi-pad site. There'll be a big, huge burrow pit, and they might negotiate with the landowner to capture some of that water. That person has to get a proper license, or it's a diversion to divert water. All of it, again, it's all part of this picture, is who's capturing the water, who's holding it. And I want to point out that with that 6 million waters that's basically been permitted, and it just rolled over. So it was 2012 and it was rolled over again. But they only use a very tiny fraction of that amount. So those are questions, I think, are fair questions to ask of the water controller who makes the decision, the water resource manager, both of them, the OGC and the Forestry Lands and Natural Resources, to actually understand how you are being involved in those discussions. And I think speaks to, I think maybe I'll jump ahead, or we've got, so we've got a number of things that we're doing with respect to the research piece, to better understand, as Jim's been highlighting, to improve our understanding of different parts of the system. This idea of the source water plan, then, we've had this plan on the books now since 2006. 7. And different industries, government were there at the table. But those agencies are not actually in the law, in the Drinking Water Protection Act, compelled to come back to your table and say, well, this is what we've done, this is what we've done, and actually show that and be accountable. So the only way you can actually go forward and say, well, we're doing all our due diligence the best as we can to understand risks. And we are trying to do more of this sampling and just keeping ahead. We don't want to be reacting. We want to be knowing what's going on. So we've done this risk assessment. But I think, and this is all part of this research we've done here, is to say, well, what's changed? What are the different types of activities and how is waste management being handled? Forestry activities, slight, very slight increase. Certainly waste and the handling of waste. So instead of just sort of being in this reactive position to say, we would like this information, we'd like that information. The next step, I think, now is that we really truly have to talk about interagency working group, key sectors there, in terms of a watershed working group. Call it a watershed council, however you want to describe it. But that's the point now. And if you're looking at designated watershed, I think there was the letter that we discussed about. Did that go out, Jim?
It hasn't gone out yet, but Mayor's back now, so it will. Now, we don't meet the criteria, and so we're asking for an expansion of the criteria, and that'll be a process rather than an outcome. We won't send a letter and get it. We'll send a letter, and it might lead to dialogue. But the government has taken the position that our watershed is too big to be effectively a community watershed, which is another way of saying that they don't believe it's reasonable to allocate that entire watershed to the city of Dawson Creek. But we don't disagree with that. There are many uses. We acknowledge those uses. We're comfortable with the uses. So there is the possibility that there will be a compromise there, that there can be some kind of council that looks at these bigger issues, keeping in mind the protection of all the users rather than just the city of Dawson Creek. But the primary point of that is, if you were to ask someone on the street what water security means, they're going to tell you that it means volume, or it means quality, or potentially it means both. And those are important aspects. Those two, volume and quality, are very important. But also important is knowledge. Also important is collaboration. In an area that is not pristine, our area is not pristine. It is heavily used by many interests. I'd suggest to you that water security is going to depend at least as much on the quality of your collaboration as it is on the quality of the volumes, or the quantity or the volume of your water. We've done a tremendous amount of work in that regard, but mostly what that work keeps revealing to us is the next step we need to take. It would be nice if there was a day that Reg would look at us and say, oh, well, I guess we've done everything we need to do. But that's not coming in my lifetime or Reg's lifetime. There is ongoing work to do with this water source, and there would be with any other source. But the catch up on another source would be difficult.
I should mention, Jim, if I may, you're referring to the Community Watershed Designation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Forest Practices and Range Act. That's kind of an old, and it's limited to 500 square kilometers. But the minister can also just, by his discretion, say, we bequeath you a watershed. So there can be ministering. But this other one, and it's this in brackets here, designated watershed actually falls under another piece of legislation. So the environmental management regulation, that's fairly new. And when OGC was here presenting to you, in their report, they actually say the Kiskatna is not a designated watershed. So it begs the question, why not? So let's ask them under that particular regulation. But between the two, the point is we have to have a higher level of community watershed designation, because that changes the way they do business. So as we stand now, we get referrals, as you know, all the different projects. So we try and put it together, and we're trying to improve the way we do business. Kind of how we share information, kind of requests that we have. But again, it's very ad hoc and it's kind of reactive, and you've got to have all these very good, strong personal working relationships with everybody, and you get somebody new in, and it's very hard. But when you have a formal mechanism, you can just sort of do a check-in. What are we doing? Who's doing the latest research? We're not tripping on each other. We're doing gauging here, and well, we're doing gauging there too. Why don't we just have one gauge instead of 2 or 3? That is the essence of really effective integrated watershed management. People sharing, and there's a level of trust. Now, when it comes to information sharing, there's proprietary interest, there's, confidentiality, there's protocols that you can sign to do it. So the point is, it's not just something in abstract. To be a designated watershed would actually compel people to work and really, really work in partnership. So with the idea of the technician coming on stream, you have an ability to actually get out and do more of your part of it, while you're still trying to hopefully work at this other level, policy level and the planning level. So we're really close to moving this forward, and my hope is that you could have that dialogue with the senior agencies and say, well, what could this mean? So that, I think, is really the critical piece. I mean, you got to start with some idea of where the kind of risks are. This map I just want to show you, I mean, it looks a little intimidating. It's a map to show you where at the top end is your intake. And the waters flow in a lot of unnamed little channels. They don't, very few of them have a name. 5 Mile Creek is one at the top end. But it's all these tiny little feeder streams where there may be development projects, and you want to know. So I was out last week, for example, talking about a major produced water pit. And my question going back is, well, we're just trying to supervise our drinking water. We also ask regulators, are they ensuring all the protections in place? And of course, oil and gas has very rigorous review. We just need to be able to ensure that we have this dialogue so that we know, and we can potentially have input, because they might miss it through how they do their design. And the question is, okay, so what happens if potentially there's a spill of any kind, like trucks or whatever? You've got now a highly sophisticated hydrocarbon meter. It's going to pick up anything related to hydrocarbons. There's still a need to look at some of the other things that can get into the system. And that's why we want to make sure we know what's going on, what we can be testing for, et cetera. So that's what we've been doing. We're just doing the full spectrum and more to make sure that we've covered things and we've got a baseline. But the point here of the red sort of says within a day then you'd have a spill reaching the intake. And as you move further back, then it becomes into a day and a half and that kind of thing. So we highlight those areas where we want to have special protection. So you're fine-tuning the way you do things.
How long does it take for the water, let's say, from a spill not too far from One Island Lake to get down to where we suck it out? I mean, how many days?
One Island?
Yeah.
That area?
Well,
yeah,
it's a high activity area.
Yeah,
isn't it? So
it'd be probably, if I'm not mistaken, about a day and a half.
a day and a half.
Yeah.
That's not long, is it?
No, about a half day is within that red area. I'd have
Well,
to.
that's how long
Yes.
it takes water to get.
Water just to move, straight water.
Water to move. The,
Okay.
what materials were spilled could have a great effect on whether it ever reached the intake.
Exactly.
I mean, some are more soluble, some are more portable. Some spills would be localized depending on the material, so.
We have our clay soils, which is a very,
So can I just ask a question related to that then? That, you identified high-risk area there, but just supposing there was an accident not so long ago where a truck carrying some petroleum product, I think it was Washington State or Eastern Canada, went into, oh no, it was in the Kootenays.
yes.
Not far from Nelson.
In the Kootenays, that's right. Diesel.
Yeah, so, I mean, do we have, so I'm just thinking from the point of view of protection. Supposing a truck goes off a bridge, we have a replication of what happened near Nelson. So, is there an agency or here that has sort of all the equipment to, I'm thinking of, they talk about skimmers or they have these.
Spill treatment, yes.
Yeah, what is there in place
So there are
Region to
companies that are.
safeguard our water system.
Absolutely, there's companies designated by each of the companies to do that
Okay.
in an emergency situation. So it's over a certain volume, 25 liters, it's automatically reported to the provincial emergency program. So a gallon, 10-gallon pail. Anything more than that gets automatically reported. We're of course part of that system, so we would know as soon as it happens. They also then get their companies in, and they're within, within no time at all on the site. And that's happened in the watershed. Rod had actually some documentation of that when I got here, about that response, and it's very, very rapid.
Good. Good.
So there is a lot of, obviously that's just so critical, right?
Yeah.
And that question's always out there is, as long as we're on top of, and you got the reporting relationships and everything, yeah, that's all there. We talked about going more into the whole monitoring system and understanding more about bare hole and risk assessments, getting this idea of the technician, and I'm suggesting this other support role. I've offered to continue in supporting this advisory, but it's the idea of building these partnerships. We need, I believe, to really focus on this idea of best practices. There are areas where you can pull people together, industry, government, land use, like ranchers, potentially in an area to improve and show really efficient projects. I think that's something that a lot of people, you gotta take people out and show them on the ground, okay? So, I think certainly on the outreach side, we did make a lot of headway. Certainly the signage project was a real feature. The video work with UNBC. I think all of it, people are getting more comfortable. At the trade show, I found the interactions were tremendous, really. The questions, the interest in carrying on with knowing more and learning more, and certainly young people are super keen, as we'll see at this initiative next week. It's a pretty progressive overall approach. I think, honestly, if we can say from the collective effort of everybody on your team, we are getting across, and we can always improve on that in terms of how we're sharing results. One of the features of the Bear Hole Lake project is putting a webcam up there with our gauges, with our climate station. So you'll have one at the rear, one up there, people can have a look. And if people want to learn how to get on the government's website, they can check the flows themselves. It's great. There are people, interpreting it is another thing, but it's good to be able to follow things. So we have these different relationships, Northeast Oil and Gas Health Advisory Committee, it's a mouthful. But that group was started, a lot of the rural concerns about health impacts of oil and gas, a lot of air emission questions. So I've sat on that committee in Fort St. John that meets once a month. Northern Health hosts it, but all the agencies and stakeholder organizations. And the new health study is just coming out. So the health impacts of oil and gas. And we're asking the hard questions. How are you discussing our interests in this? And so everybody knows Dawson Creek's high on the list. So they've definitely said we are going to be giving special focus to Dawson on the development of a new monitoring program. It's called the Northeast Enhanced Water Monitoring Program, and they've given assurances that they're going to be really working together on this. So the pieces are very much coming together. The Northeast Water Strategy, the province will be fully announcing in the next few months. You've also provided input. A lot of what we've already said is in those comments. We've talked a little bit about the new act that's coming. That's going to come with regulations, so there's going to be a chance again to input on some of those regulations. You may say, okay, well, we've got the ability now to track all this water stuff. We would like to be properly consulted on Section 8 approvals, these oil and gas approvals. First Nations are the only ones now that get those referrals. So what we talked about earlier about what's happening in the upper, you would have an ability to say, well, maybe, but give us some assurances that when drought happens that we're not going to be having to pull back even more than we need to. So that's that level of the piece. And then a lot of it just comes down to this idea of a working group. I'd be interested in your feedback on that idea more. It's worked in a lot of jurisdictions. Cowichan has got a very active water board. Okanagan. A lot of people that come to those water boards have a direct interest. In the Okanagan, private landowners around the lake really drove it. They've got retired politicians on that board, like Tom Sidden.
Oh, really?
And former Minister Anderson is on the Cowichan board. So we've got people that have connections. And they all have met with them directly on this stuff. And, you know, any occasion that you'd want to have potentially some background directly from them, there's definitely invitations that you could make to people that have done this and ask them how their systems have worked on that area. So that's something I would put out there to you. Certainly the university relationships are working there. So that's kind of how I've concluded. The idea of, I mean, the other piece to this is this idea of the water system committee. I mean, out of the Sure Water Initiative, it may very well be that you want to draw various of those key people together to talk more about some of this work, water supply management and all of that. So, the Watershed Council is something that can evolve over time. So there's these different levels of input.
So, I guess the question that occurs to me is we have a number of recommendations here, right? Strategies. Is there going to be, you're leaving?
Well, I mean, I've been in an advisory support role till the end
Yeah.
of July, and I'm not too far away.
So it seems to me that council should, and staff, we should talk about some of these things and which things we think we should really push. Like there's many. I mean, a lot of it's process, dialogue, but do we have it as or maybe it's strategic planning, you know, start next year, but from the point of view of watershed, I think you used the word designation, pursue that, you know, what does that mean, or reaching that same status as First Nations people from the point of view of right to be informed. There's a whole bunch of things that add to this work of water security for the community. Yeah. So maybe that's something we should flag for some time.
Yeah,
I'm saying put it on the agenda this year, but put it for next year, next 3 years planning or something, new council.
Certainly from the component of the immediacy of our Sure Water process, and then the governance structure, the structure around now how do we start this process of getting the designation completed, right? And then we've had a letter put together.
It's pretty much ready.
To send to, and there's, it's to me, it's you got Minister of Health, you got Minister of Environment, you got Forest Lands Natural Resources, you got Minister of Natural Gas. Everybody's got and the government now has got an interest in what's going on in here, right? And so we got to be focused about that in terms of, I think, how we approach that with making sure we get the right place at the table with the right group.
And part of what I'm saying here, you've got the source water plan, and starting just with that. You know, you can go into a lot of discussions as well on drinking, or on managing supply side. But here, there's some of these existing plans, the source water protection plan and your watershed plan. So we're not talking out of air. We're talking very concrete. This is what we've been doing. We know what the government's been doing. So we can actually talk about where those partnerships would be in a very pragmatic way. And that can start as early as we can establish a working group is my suggestion. So there's ways to work up to a higher level, you know, start involving all kinds of stakeholders. But that would be my principal recommendation is to get a formal request. We'll see what your letter comes back with response. But I would anticipate they might be wanting to move forward on that. It's a lot to consider. There's lots of pieces that we can do in management, but this is how we really balance this idea of on the ground what's happening, and how do you actually make a difference in the way the system is managed at that strategic level. So this gives you a backgrounder on all the different pieces that would actually go into that, into the future. It draws on the best practice, and you would end up potentially 2 years' time issuing a report on state of the Upper Kiskatna. I'm giving you pieces of it now, but it would have to be signed off by all the others to be able to say this is our collective report. And that's the kind of thing that is done in several jurisdictions. So these are the pieces to do it, but that's pretty well all I wanted to just emphasize and what came out of the last session.
The benefits and goals that you've mentioned are pretty exciting, I think. Definitely the sharing of information, you know, the opportunities for, well, just really understanding things a lot better. That's a wonderful direction to head in, I think. But I might be speaking ahead of any of the other circumstances that we'll need to consider everything under. But yeah, I definitely think that we should proceed with this. I'm not sure when, like Councillor Parslow says, but yeah, it's exciting.
Well, like I said, I'm quite happy to have any further input on, as you might ask, and how we can specifically engage and get some feedback.
That's a good thing, Reg. It's very good.
Thank you. Well, it's taken a lot of collaboration, great
Oh, yeah.
folks in the city here to help put the picture together and support, so. Appreciate the chance to come back.
Sorry, I was just gonna add, one of the things that come to the regional district recently, and it deals with the source and the industry, and so Peace River Regional District have commissioned Dr.
Windley.
And they're gonna put $300 or $400 into doing some analysis around wells in the region in terms of understanding the well water for rural area and rural residents. And at the same time, the Oil and Gas Commission are commissioning a $2 or $3 million study on the water shed and the water components around the region. And so are they connecting you with that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm and my other consulting work I'm doing, I'm partnering with Dr. Gilles.
Okay.
And helping to enable that, the connections there. And it's not a duplication.
Yeah.
It's very much, they've got a concentration, the OGC and the environment, and we'll be talking about other areas where there's not the connection. So that's being worked out right now, and there's discussions happening with First Nations as well. So keeping ourselves organized.
All right.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Reg.
Thanks, Reg.
Thank you.
For all of this. Appreciate the time.
So there is a letter that we've got, and we'll circulate that through to council just to give that some context for you guys in terms of what we're proposing sending out. Anything further? No. Thank you.
Oh, we already adjourned?